O'Reilly. Are your wiper blades chattering, skipping, or squeaking? Don't let streaks or smearing on your windshield compromise your visibility. When it's time to replace your wiper blades, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and see our selection. Our professional parts people will even install your new wiper blades while you wait. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hunting Collective episode number 18. I'm Ben O'Brien. Today I am joined by Cole Kramer, Kodiak, Alaska bear guide, mountain hunter, and venturing badass. Cole is a great friend of mine. One of my favorite people on the planet Earth, someone I've traveled the far reaches of the world with, and I value him and his opinion among almost all others. This conversation goes into taxidermy, trophies, value systems, guiding, bears. There's a bunch of great bear stories that you won't hear anywhere else from a guy like Cole. And our story of our adventure in Nepal last year. So hopefully you enjoy all those things. I certainly did. It's longer than our normal podcast. It could have been way longer than it actually is. I think it's one of our best. It'll stand up for a long time. This is episode number 18 of the Hunting Collective. Hey, Cole.
Hey, Ben.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on the podcast, man.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. I always like to start these conversations out like for you to describe, we're in interesting places, for you to describe where we are, what we're doing.
Well, folks, for those of you at home right now thinking about us, just put yourself in a nice, relaxing moment and just think that you're back on a bus.
Yes.
That you went to school in, but yet it's a much nicer bus that has nice couches.
It does.
And we're looking outside in the rain and fog at the Total Archery Challenge up here at, is it Terry Peak?
It is Terry Peak.
In South Dakota.
Terry Peak, South Dakota. Yeah, it is raining. It's been raining all day, which is not, turns out that doesn't work well for an outdoor archery shoot.
No, when you can barely make out the targets, it's kind of difficult. But I tell you what, there's a lot of hardcore people here just hitting the course up like nothing's going on. So
yeah, just throwing on their rain gear, doing it. We're just drinking hot cocoa in a bus.
We are drinking hot cocoa, and I do have my shoes off. Got it up on a cooler, relaxing.
Yeah, well, no, we're in the, not just any bus, the public lands bus.
That's right. Sam Soholt's awesome bus.
Yeah, he's been kind enough to let me use this as a studio for today. It's very nice. It's how would you describe the interior?
It's rustic, but also modern.
Yeah, it's a modern rustic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's really nice. He's done what did he say? It took him about 2 months, 2 solid months of
2 months,
work.
Yeah. Painted the outside and framed up a whole 4 bunks back there and a whole queen, looked like maybe even a queen size bed in the back.
Yeah, I think he actually rents out his slots here. I mean, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to, it's like an Airbnb on wheels. He'll drive to you wherever you are. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea for a business.
No, it's not actually.
We'll have to let him know.
Yeah,
maybe he'll come in and join us. He's outside selling T-shirts right now for his public lands tees. So he's got a lot of public land stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's very trendy.
Yeah, he's got a really cool. What is that? A wall tent, framed up wall tent on the front of the bus or on the side of the bus, and got his T-shirts and whatnot in there. And a lot of folks coming in.
Currently, a river runs through it.
Yeah, with all the rain and hail we've had here, it's quite interesting outside right at the moment with a lot of mud.
Listen, anybody listening that thinks that my mobile Airbnb idea is good, let me know, because I'd like to go into business.
I'd like to collect some royalties.
Whereas you're like, hey man, I'm staying in Denver for the weekend. We're like, I'll drive to you. You can stay in my bus. Maybe Sam and I can get in on that. Anyhow, it's been a fun weekend. We've shot many a foam target at various distances. I
feel like we're supporting the arrow companies for sure after this trip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are. And I showed up here with my my favorite arrows. So listen, you listen to this podcast, you may think, what a sharp fella. What a character. Sharp, thoughtful. Really has it all together.
He knows his stuff. He's got a podcast. He knows what he's doing.
He's got a podcast. Not many people have podcasts. Yeah. He must be special. But I showed up. So I will say, archery country in Austin, Texas is one of my favorite places to be, let alone purchase archery paraphernalia from. They're awesome people. And I went there, say Sunday to get arrows. And they know what arrows I shoot, so I got their arrows. They cut them for me, put inserts in, gave them to me. I didn't think much about it, And I got here, and the color is orange,
which I like them. They look great.
Autumn orange is the color. And I got here, and a few people, either jokingly or seriously, I don't think I could pick up the sarcasm, were like, "Oh, aluminum arrows."
Full-blown aluminum arrows.
Yeah, aluminums. That's crazy. You're shooting old school. I was like, I thought about it. Like, did I get the wrong arrows? Did they give me the wrong arrows? So I took one of my autumn orange arrows out of the quiver and looked at it. And I said, oh, shit, it says aluminum orange.
Keep in mind, this has gone for several hours now.
Yeah.
At this point.
And I'm telling everybody in our shooting group, I'm telling Sam and Cole, I got these aluminum arrows. They'll probably fly different, because it says aluminum right on the shaft. I don't know how we got our wires crossed and they gave me aluminum arrows. Wouldn't even think an archery shop would even sell aluminum arrows anymore with carbon and the other materials one might use for an arrow. And then not 20 minutes later, I look down at my thing and Sam says, well, what kind of arrows are they? And I said, well, they're Easton FMJs. Shit. It says autumn orange.
They are aluminum.
They are not aluminum arrows. And I'm an idiot.
But they shot great, though.
They did shoot great. If you like gut shots and back leg shots.
And hitting rocks.
Yeah, hitting rocks.
Well, you showed up prepared. It's not the arrow's fault. Let's get that straight.
It's the Indians' fault.
It's
that's for sure. No, I will say, like, when you show up to these things, I felt more prepared coming into this weekend than I have for a lot of things that I've shown up with a bow. But I just, whether it was string stretch from 100, it's a new bow. I probably only shot 20, 30 arrows through it.
Mm-hmm.
Rode around in the truck for a day while we were coming back at 105 degrees. String stretch, whatever. I showed up here, the peep was all twisted up. I was shooting about 2 feet left. And 6 inches low. So I had to put on a new tape. And it took me a whole day of being terrible.
Yeah, you got her dialed in, though.
But I got her dialed in. The last 8 targets of yesterday, I felt like I was finally getting there.
Out of the 50 targets that we've shot
at. So anyway, just a peek behind the curtain, as it were, to give you a little insight on how stupid I am at certain times. Cole knows all about that.
I've enjoyed our times together, Ben, and I have noticed a few things about you, but kind of like a little brother or something, I feel like, it's okay. Sometimes we all have brain farts or whatever it is you call your personal.
Yeah, are you concerned
hurdles.
at all about?
I'm totally used to it by now, so it doesn't really affect me.
Seek help, or
I
try to find some kind of like counseling, or maybe read a book?
There's probably some books that you could, yes.
How not to be a dumbass.
How not to be so forgetful.
Yeah, I do forget stuff a lot. There's a lot going on, man. A whole lot going on.
Well, it happens.
I
It
know.
definitely happens.
Listen, tell people what you do for a living.
Well, I have lived up in Kodiak, Alaska, I guess since 2002 after I graduated high school, and I am a hunting guide. Run a small operation up there, and then still work for a few other outfitters in Alaska and some other parts of the world, and kind of I just figured at some point, if I'm going to take this career seriously, I got to just hit it hard, and I'm going to pay the bills. So pretty much year-round hunting guide. So
Year-round. Bears, Kodiak brown bears?
Yep, Kodiak brown bears, Sitka black-tailed deer, mountain goats, do a little bit of Dall sheep up on the mainland, brown bears on the mainland as well, on the peninsula. So, and what ends up happening, you end up hunting with some of these guys multiple times, clients, and they kind of want to continue the hunting with you. And so I'll help line up trips for them to kind of, go wherever their hearts desire. Most of my trips are all mountain trips, so
Mexico, right? You just
we do
Mexico
some
every year?
trips. Yep, get to go with Dustin Rowe down there to Mexico on the Baja, hunt some desert sheep, and then guys want to go to Azerbaijan or Nepal or places like that, or kind of try to help guys get lined up with going wherever they want to go. Most of it's they hear that I've been there, and they kind of want to, and you meet these other outfitters at these outdoor conventions and whatnot, and you spark up relationships, and so you kind of go different places.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty fun ride. Not ready to get off it yet. So
I don't think you will. Why Kodiak?
Well, I have my aunt lives there. My aunt and uncle moved up there from they were in the Coast Guard. They were also from Kansas, where I originally grew up, out by Pratt, Kansas. And my uncle was stationed there. He was a H-60 pilot that's the helicopters, like a Black Hawk, for the Coast Guard. And I went up there when I was 11 and just loved it. They invited me up there and went back up a few other times after that. Just absolutely loved it, and thought to myself, when I was probably 13 or 14, I'm definitely going to move there after high school.
Mm-hmm.
And my uncle was a huge influence on my life. And so he invited me to come up there after high school, and thought, yep, definitely going to do it. And so moved up a week after high school. Unfortunately, he passed away in an airplane crash. Oh, shoot. I guess it was about 9 years ago, potentially, I guess. So that was a really bum deal. But my aunt is still up there, so I get to see her quite often. So I was really blessed to have someone there, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't
introduction.
totally blind on just going up to Alaska. I had a very, very good stepping stone and very supportive family members there. So that was really great.
Shout out to Pratt, Kansas. What's the population of Pratt, Kansas?
Pratt, Kansas, I think is somewhere around 7,500 people.
Oh, that's more than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
more than I thought.
yeah,
That's a
got
nice
some-
town.
My best friends that there are back there, and great people, great town. Enjoy going back there each year for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think guiding. When I think of guiding, you don't think of, you think of a career in that industry, but you've kind of flipped it over a little bit to, have a name and have a reputation in the hunting industry, all over, with brands, with media, with all the things you've done. Was that intentional, or did you just always you just stumble into all that?
I think it has to do with your passion of whatever you're in and wanting to better your field that you're in. And for me, I just loved always talking about gear and exploring the types of gear that were out there.
Yeah.
We had the old school Cabela's stuff, and then then I had a short stint like wearing Filson and things of that nature, like on my hunts and whatnot. But then I thought, this mountaineering stuff, that's the way to go. These mountaineer guys have got it figured out, and so then I kind of got to the point where I got, frustrated with trying to buy this equipment with companies that did not support my industry as a hunter. And I thought, well, there's really no reason for me to be supporting these types of people. And so that's when I started, going towards Sitka gear, and it just kind of morphed into just trying to help a company. And they had plenty of great guys also with them helping, and other, athletes or whatnot. But from my point of view of what I was personally doing and seeing things either fail or doing great, I just always felt the urge to call them and just say, hey, this is great, or this isn't doing so good, but trying to focus on constructive criticism. And that's kind of the way I've always been with the companies that I have aligned myself with. This is gear or things that I truly use, and not just because someone says, here, we'll give you some stuff for free because you're a guide or something. These are things that I would much rather turn down things for free and go buy something that I really want to use, rather than just taking free things. It's just not how I operate.
Kodiak is not a place that would abide by that kind of activity.
No, I remember a few times getting on my satellite phone. I remember I had a set of rain gear that blew out a zipper on my leg, and like on day 5 of a 10-day hunt, and up in snow and rain, watching these rams, sitting over top of these rams with an archery hunter. And I got on my sat phone and just called the office and said, hey guys, just letting you know, zipper blew out. They said, oh, so sorry, we'll get that replaced, no problem, we'll send you. I said, I know, but that's 5 days out and 20 miles away from me getting out of this place. You have to think about what people are going through, and not, so me, I wasn't trying to call and yell at people. It was just like, please understand what people are going through wearing your gear. I don't care if it's gear or a gun, scope, whatever it is. As a company, you have to look at the most extreme end of things. And I got sick and tired of listening to people say, well, you're a guide, it's not going to last for you. It's more mainly meant for these consumers, and this and that. Well, that's not a very good, and that wasn't coming from some of these other companies. It was just, I would hear that every once in a while from these companies when I would say, oh, these boots didn't really last. Well, but you wore them on this many hunts, and then, and it's
you
like,
wore
well,
too much. Why'd you wear
and it's like, well, guys, no matter what it is, right? I mean, that's the way I feel. And luckily the companies that I'm in line with right now, I'm so blessed because that is what they base their things. If I can wear it, or if the other guys that I'm associated with these companies can wear it, or use it, and we try to find all the faults so it doesn't happen to you. Does it still happen? It does. But I guess getting back to, I just really felt, getting back to what you were asking, did I see it? No, it just kind of morphed into that wanting to always help. I don't care about, as bad as it sounds, I don't really care about, how many likes or followers you get on all this social media, because I just feel like if I can help my hunters be more prepared, that's what I really care about. Because at the end of the day,
I've been trying for years to get you to care more about social media. You just won't do it.
No, it's one of those things. At the end of the day, if I can help my hunters be prepared, and when they show up, because it's really hard sometimes for me to, get this person, and you feel bad as a guide, to get this person to spend all this extra money, whether it be on clothing, a gun, optics, whatever it may be, a pack. But it's like, listen, I want you to be the most comfortable person that you can possibly be out here on the mountain, because this 10 days could be the most miserable time of your entire life. And so if you go by our structure of gear and whatnot, I mean, it's my fault if I tell you to get something and it fails on you on the hunt. Well, that's my fault, but I don't want to have you show up with something that you think will work, but yet I know it won't work. And so I at least have to speak my piece to these people, try to get them prepared, and just be comfortable on the hunt. It's like showing up in good shape. I take that very, very seriously, physical conditioning and whatnot. I want people to be happy and and comfortable on these hunts. And so that's where it's all that's what I really feel like is the most important in my aspect is preparing people and getting them ready for their hunts, and these companies understanding on what these these people can get into potentially.
Well, yeah, because you want to make gear for the harshest climates.
Right.
Like, you want to. As a company, you should want to. You shouldn't want to. I mean, yeah, you want to make a profit, but you should aspire to your world.
That's right.
Aspire to Kodiak and make products that can stand up to that place. Because if it can stand up to Kodiak, do pretty good anywhere.
There's a reason why the Navy SEALs have a training base there, and that's where, they're testing out all their mountain gear, getting it lined out. And that's how I met John Barklow. When I moved in 2002, I think Barklow moved there as well around 2002, and I met him. I was at a volunteer search and rescue. My dad's a firefighter, and I always want to be a firefighter. But when the outfitters I've worked with said, if you really want to make a difference and like be more, helpful in the mountains, you maybe want to look at this mountain rescue team. And so I just joined a volunteer mountain rescue team with a bunch of the locals, and Barklow came in one time. I didn't know him, but he came in to explain gear to us, explain clothing and how it should be worn. Because a lot of us, we're on a mountain rescue team, but we're just there as volunteers trying to help. We don't really know what we're doing. Okay. We're there to learn and to help people. And so Barklow was there and gave a talk. I mean, it just was ingrained in my head. It was like doors opening, like, wow, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That makes sense. Cause I was back in the day, when I say back in the day, it makes it sound old, but like realistically, unless you were really paying attention to mountaineering stuff and following that kind of stuff, remember social media wasn't really like all these chat rooms and whatnot. Maybe they went on, but I didn't look at any of that stuff. I didn't read any of that stuff. I would just go into these gear shops and think to myself, oh, maybe this would work. Maybe that would work. And we'd all come up with our own little systems, or like you see a systems at Cabela's. Oh, that's on the same page. So I think you buy that whole set.
Think about what was offered at Cabela's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Think about what was offered at all 10 years ago. How old is Sitka?
Yeah, it's about that.
They were just becoming
it's 11
a reality.
It was 11 years old?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
So they were a tiny outfit then, just getting going. And imagine, what spawned out of that idea is a movement in the hunting industry to go further, but be comfortable as you're doing it.
That's right.
And it's been spurred on by companies like Sitka Gear, for hunts to be more hardcore and to be, guided sometimes, but also just, hey, this is the gear built for somebody that's going to adventure.
Sure. Well, you just never know. I was just talking with a guy over there at Vapor Trail just a bit ago, and he's going to come up to go blacktail hunting on Kodiak. And it was more, I was telling him about our experience and whatnot. And I said, when you show up, just be prepared, and a lot of guys are, feel very comfortable about camping and this and that and the other, but it's like, you really don't understand until you're 100 miles from anywhere and it's blowing 80 and it's snowing sideways and your camp is caving in on you.
Yeah.
And things are getting real, like very, very real. And so you really can't stress enough about being prepared with the right gear and physically, mentally, everything being prepared. And so we are very, very blessed at this point in time. Everyone out there listening, we are all so blessed right now with there are, obviously I wear Sitka gear. That is what I totally 100% believe in. But there are other great companies out there right now that are making great gear.
Well, that's what happens with companies that do that. Yeti's a great example of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You set the bar, and then people are going to come and chase that bar and try to jump it.
I think
that's
it's
only
great.
Good for hunters.
That's
it's only
right.
Good for consumers.
Yeah, it's great because it keeps pushing people. It keeps pushing the other guys. And, when guys show up to my camp and I'm looking at what they're wearing and I go over and I'm touching it or feeling it, and I ask questions and we all have our opinions, but as a guide, I get blessed with seeing all the wonderful things that happen to clothing, and people can give their spiels all they want, but I get to see firsthand what actually happens to other guys' clothing. And it could be the same brand I'm wearing, or it could be some other brand. And But I get to see the wear and tear. I don't care if it's packs, rain gear, whatever it is. Bottom line with me is I can guarantee you that I do not like being cold and wet. And I live on Kodiak Island and guide in the Chugach and guide wherever shit happens around the world. I don't like being cold and wet. And I honestly can't remember the last time that I was miserable out in the environment, But with that said, you have to understand how to wear it's like me and my MacBook Pro. I mean, I buy it and I'm thinking, oh, sweet, look at all this cool stuff you can do on it. Well, I know how to turn it on, write some emails, download some photos.
Yeah.
And that's really all I really know how to do with it. But, when a guy really knows what they're doing with their gear or with that piece of equipment, it goes so much further. And I'm a huge, advocate of just like, I'm always watching my clients. I'm always paying attention to them while they're hiking, and I'm watching them get hot. And a huge issue with people is they're wearing their rain gear and they're wearing too much clothing underneath or the wrong type of clothing underneath, and they sweat. And before you know it, they're saying, oh, this rain gear sucks, man. I got wet while it was raining and it's horrible. And I got really cold. And it's like, well, did you strip down? Were you wearing all your layers? All these people keep their jackets zipped all the way up. It's a vicious cycle when you get sweaty, hot, and then all of a sudden you get cold. But they don't want to unzip and let breathe. Yeah.
Well, yeah, vents. I mean, all these top flight rain gear all has vents in it. And
That's right. But it is something where I have to almost argue with people sometimes. Like, hey, you need to take that off. No, I'm good. Nope, you need to take it off. Trust me. And it's like I have to. I almost have to treat some of my hunters like children sometimes because they're not used to.
Well,
being
when I came
cold.
up to Kodiak, I think I had I was square on I had the right, Sitka puffy, all the down stuff I needed to have. I had the right synthetics, the right rain gear, but I didn't have the right gloves.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we were skinning that deer, and I'm like, my gloves. I had 3 pairs of gloves in my pack, and they were all soaked and they were all screwed. Right. You're over there like, look at these gloves.
My hands are hot.
My hands.
Oh, did you want a pair of these?
Yeah.
I got 2 on.
Oh my God, I have 3 pairs of gloves. And I ended up wearing my rubber gloves that I brought for taking rafts in and out of the river, whatever.
Yeah.
On the way out because my hands are so cold.
Right.
Yeah, so it's those little things. I think I was probably 90% there, but it's just that you forget the right gloves or you don't think about what gloves you might have to have in those situations.
Yeah. A lot of people aren't used to that. And I remember talking to John Barklow when he was came and chatted with us about gear, and we got to gloves, and he said, man, gloves are the weakest point in all gear. And I remember him saying something of that nature, saying everyone is different. Everyone's circulation is different. With their hands. Like me, I wear mittens a lot because on the sides of my fingers, if I have tighter fitting fingered gloves on, my circulation gets cut off and my hands get really cold. And the biggest misconception, I think, like when people are wearing mittens, even they'll wear a little liner glove on underneath it, and their hands are like, oh man, my hands are still cold. It's like, well, take those off. Like I do better with it just my, being able to touch my own skin underneath the mitten.
Yeah. And
instead of having all these extra tight gloves on, the worst thing you can do is have tight gloves on, I feel. And I'll carry some hand warmers occasionally, and it's funny, they'll sit in my bag forever. And then finally one day, like while I'm glassing for bears, I'll say, okay, maybe I'll break out those hand warmers. And it's always like, gosh, why didn't I freaking do that 10 days ago? These are nice. But gloves are a tough one. They really, really are. Everyone's circulation is different. But bottom line is you need to have, like I wear a lot of times, I'll have a thin pair of like leather gloves just for hiking in. I trip and stumble every once in a while. I'm breaking branches out of the trail. So I like to have a light set of leather gloves on, so no thorns or anything can get through, and I'm not, tearing up the material of like some soft shell glove while I'm breaking branches or using my machete or whatever. But you need to think, okay, what situations, and maybe it's 3 pairs of gloves you have, a light pair, maybe an insulating pair, and then a waterproof pair. And I'm really big advocate of like on these rain gloves and the waterproof gloves, they need to be a glove that you can take a liner out to dry. That's the only way you'll ever be able to dry them out in a spike camp scenario. Pull the liner out, and a lot of times if they're wet, I'll put them in my little side pockets of my pants, and I'll sleep with them in my side pockets of my pants. That's the only way you can dry them out if you don't have a heating element in your tent of any sort.
Yeah.
So you just wear your clothes, and that was the other thing, learning that from John years ago, and just some of the guides I knew, if you got wet in your gear, because no matter what you have, you're going to sweat or whatever may happen, right? I mean, hell, you could hit a branch and it rips something on your pants or something like that, a rock or something, and you're going to get wet occasionally or fall in the river. That's the biggest thing that I think about when I have an extra set of clothes at camp. I don't just change into those clothes when I get stinky. I change into those clothes. That's a backup pair for if I fall in the river and get wet, or something like that.
Yeah.
I fall in a creek or something like that. Or my hunter is hypothermic or whatever happened. Maybe he falls in the river. So it's a backup for that. But if you need to dry out, the only way you're going to do that in a spike camp scenario is climb in your sleeping bag and dry out, and you got to wear it, and it'll seem a little bit uncomfortable at first, but it heats up. And that's mainly with a synthetic bag. You can do that. Can you get away with that dry down? Yeah, but it won't handle the same way as a synthetic
bag. Moisture.
Yeah, the moisture. Well, the down goes limp, and over time, I don't care what you have when it talks about this fantastic, amazing dry down stuff. I personally, it wears out over time when you are taking it out and compressing, and you're taking it out, compressing out, compressing. You do that 1 billion times.
Yeah.
Well, you end up kind of wearing it out. But regardless, it's just all this stuff's fascinating to me, and I know we're in a time where it's very fascinating for a lot of people, to learn about all this stuff. We're very, very fortunate.
We are. We're fortunate to be in a bus where both of us are.
It's raining and pouring. I mean, it's miserable
rough,
outside,
dude. It's just a mud puddle. Nobody is outside.
This has been the hangout bus. It's funny, there'll be 5 or 8 people hanging out in the bus, and here we are podcasting, and everyone has to stand outside while we're in there.
We're dicks. they're all like, "You have hot cocoa, and it's so warm in the bus." Cole and I have both taken naps in the bus today as well. It's very nice. Thank you, Sam, for the bus.
Very nice.
But I would say, I think you and I have a couple pretty good stories to tell. I feel they might. If we try to combine them both into one podcast, this might end up being 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't recall what was it about. What did we do?
Hunting. We were hunting.
Oh,
remember?
Oh, yeah. I don't really recall our adventures, but
no. Well, I'll walk you through them. Oh, I remember. I was there. I don't know. I think. I don't know, man. I remember being a different person. Probably before I started working at Yeti, maybe before I started working at Peterson's Hunting, and just being a regular hunter and thinking about adventure type hunting or mountain hunting or things of that nature as this far off reality. And then also thinking at the time the gear needed to do that was silly. Nobody could ever afford it. Nobody would ever aspire to spend that much on the hunt and the gear, and what would you really get? Why wouldn't you just stay home and shoot a whitetail? I remember that being in my mind for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I ever had the aspiration. I never read hunting magazines or watched TV with some aspiration to go to the Yukon with Jim Shockey and shoot a moose or anything like that. I just always felt pretty happy at home and pretty normal, and not want to do those things. But as I've been lucky enough to do some of that stuff, it's changed me in a way that I don't know that I'll ever be able to put my finger on or ever be able to explain. And I think, in my experience with you, is like the consistent exposure to those struggles is, man, it makes you appreciate every little opportunity you have in life, whether it's go out to the bar with your buddies or go to a trade show or
take a shower,
clean
socks.
Yeah. I will remember that shower we took in Kathmandu for the rest of my
Note, not together. We were not showering together.
And I mean, it was conserve water. You know, we're environmentalists.
Yeah.
But yeah, those types of things. When you come off of those adventures, and I've tried to probably over time explain what it feels like and the perspective it gives you, and like what the meaning is, and I was listening to Rogan's podcast with Dennis McKenna this morning. I was getting ready, and they were talking about how psychedelics kind of give you this weird view of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're in psychedelics, you start to see things in different lights. So Joe was talking about driving down a paved road and thinking about this road. Normally you're like, it's a road. And I don't have to think about that anymore. It's a road. It's a paved road. I drive down it every day. I'm going to shut my mind off, and I don't have to think about what I'm actually doing because I'm driving on a road. Everybody does it. There's no need to examine it. But then when he expands his mind via psychedelics, he's thinking, damn, what am I doing? We've chosen to pave over this area and roll over it in a 1-ton machine. Like, we're weird. Humans are weird. And I feel probably in a less aggressive way than taking mushrooms, but coming back from these adventure hunts, man, I feel almost like that. Like you're exposed to the harshness of the world, and then all the niceties of the world seem odd.
Mm-hmm.
Like it seems like this thing that is normal to us is not normal to the world. Paved roads are not what nature and the natural world provided. We've done that to smooth over the rough points in our existence.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just thinking about that. Even in this morning, I was getting a shower thinking about hunting, being exposed to true adventure hunting like you've done. Yeah, I think it changes you in ways that you never really know until maybe you're done with it and retired.
Yeah, it's definitely, for me, that's what I believe. Obviously, when people call me and they want to book a hunt, they're part of their goal, and maybe the main part of their goal is to come on a brown bear hunt and get their bear.
Sure.
Or their deer, or you want to go get your elk, or wherever it may be. That's fine. But with me, it has morphed into, and I think this happened after spending so much time in the field and experiencing, like what you mentioned, how you feel afterwards, that I absolutely, truly enjoy giving that feeling to people. Not to be confused with a guide that loves breaking people and loves putting them through misery. That is absolutely not what I have ever enjoyed doing. Where you hear many guides you hear about these stories, these young guides or whatever that just want to break their hunters. No, my absolute joy is doing exactly what you said, is taking people out, exposing them to the elements, and showing them that you can survive. We are okay. We're able to get through this, and to do it in a fairly, easy manner once you do actually know how to do it.
Well, it's just, I feel like that expands your mind. Even that example you gave of being in a sleeping bag and being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like it rains, you're wet. First thing you want to do is strip off your clothes and get in a sleeping bag and be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But if the quickest way to be warm the next day is to stay wet and get in your sleeping bag, then that's what you have to do. That's an expansion of what your willingness to be miserable, and it's an expansion of your mindset,
right?
As a human,
you have to think, when you're going to be out there, you always have to think ahead. I don't care what it starts on the stage before you get on the airplane. When you hand them your backpack, where is your rain gear? Is it in the bottom or is it on top? Maybe you have it on, maybe you don't, but always have it close by. It starts at the very, very beginning. To every single point of your day, of anything you do out there, you have to think ahead.
Yeah.
Even if it's miserable, you have to go outside and do it. Do I really want to drop down 1,000 feet to get water right now? No. But if I wake up at 5 a.m. and want to stay up on the ridgeline and go look at these rams, I don't want to. I mean, I want to get up and have coffee and have my oatmeal. I better go down and get the water right now. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
gonna be miserable in the morning
Yeah.
or whatever. Just every aspect. Tying your tent down appropriately. If you don't do it now, I call it the Chinese fire drill. No offense, but in the middle of the night, you wake up, your tent's flapping. Something's broke. You got to fix it. I mean, you have every single aspect. I micromanage everything out there to a T because I know what can happen over time, and you have to think about it.
Well, how much time does that take to get normal? Because I found like in hunting with you, or doing all these types of hunts, as you get out there, I feel like the normal world, the real world that I live in, my day-to-day life, dulls me up. Like if I was a knife, I'd be rusty and dull after about a month.
Right.
And then I get out there, and it usually takes me a day or two to sharpen.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time I'm done, I'm sharp as fuck.
Yeah.
And then I go back, and I feel depressed to be back and be getting rusty again.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this, my wife talks about it all the time, this serious problem with getting back and being super depressed. Not,
right.
I get through it.
Sure.
But you feel like you're starting to get rusty again, and you can see it in your own mind. You're like, man, I'm starting to get frustrated by traffic, and I'm starting to get frustrated by my email not working and I'm starting to get frustrated by my phone, the text not going through, or something like that.
Or are you frustrated with people?
Yeah, frustrated
I
with
get
people.
Frustrated with people very easily because they don't respect and they don't know what they have.
Yeah.
Whereas us that do spend time out, and I go back, it's really, really changed me in a manner to appreciate people. Like I probably, I've always loved my parents, but I guarantee you after being in the woods and being out with no contact, or, because back in the day, I didn't have a satellite phone. I mean, I'd be with someone sometimes that had a satellite phone or maybe a radio or whatever, but I felt after a few circumstances that have happened with me, whether it be, almost falling off a mountain or bear charging me and about grabbing me, to just any little thing, I go back and just appreciate my family, appreciate my friends. I remember like the first few times I went home after moving to Alaska and just seeing my friends, all these piddly little things that people were whining and griping about, about, oh, well, we don't like this guy anymore, or we don't like this person anymore, or, oh gosh, can you believe this? And I was just like, wow, I can't believe this. Like, I just don't understand why these people are being like that. Like, cause I remember seeing people that maybe I didn't really like him at one point in time, but I'd see him like, hey, how are you doing? How are you, man? What's up? How are you? And I got to a point where I could honestly say there was no one that I had an issue with, period. Or I just appreciated things. And I think that's what upsets me is when I see people squabbling over these frivolous things that mean nothing.
Yeah.
And to me, we are out there, and when we got back from our Kodiak trip, which we can dive into whenever, but it's just,
oh, we will.
After that trip, I mean, obviously that was, for you guys, well, for everyone, there's some big mental screws in that thing. And so when you come out of a trip like that, it's, it makes you appreciate it. It changes you.
So as you're talking, I'm thinking about, this could be a terrible analogy, but I was thinking about as if you're a knife and the regular life dulls you up, that makes it harder to cut through life.
Right.
So the duller you become, the softer you become in regular life, the harder it is to get through situations.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the ability to see the entire picture. So smaller things become harder to cut through because you're just soft and you're dull and you're not sharp enough to tackle challenges. But then you go out and do these, whether it's 10 days or 5 days or what, it doesn't matter the amount of time, with these things that challenge you to break through mental barriers and to break through physical barriers and to push yourself to limits. Your mind is expanded and you're sharper, and you can cut through the bullshit of life so much faster because you have the ability to be like, that doesn't fucking matter. At least I don't have to walk down 1,000 feet to get water.
That's right.
Like, I'm in traffic, but I got air conditioning, I got heated seats, and I got sparkling water in a damn Yeti cup. Yeah. I'll be all right. At least I don't have to wake up and and hike down to the creek and
Right.
try to avoid bears while I get my water.
Yeah, you're sitting in your feet or feeling a little sore. Like, well, at least they're not wet. At least I'm not hiking 20 miles up a river,
Yeah.
with sopping wet, blistered feet.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, every aspect is made a little bit easier in life, I think, and you appreciate more going on adventures. And so, like for me, I really, yes, I do happen to get blessed with harvesting some large animals in our guide service. We live and work in an amazing place. Yeah, that's great, but we take some really big brown bears.
Sure.
And do we get 10-foot bears? Yeah, we do. But it really, I'm at a place now with my hunting that my goals are to harvest old, mature animals. Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't always happen, but that's what we strive for. I honestly don't care about I hate the numbers game. Absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
And I realize that's the way that we measure animals and whatnot. And just so maybe when you're telling a story, oh, how big was that whitetail? And you can tell them a score of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, now I got how big it was. I understand that. And so, yes, we do tell people, but I absolutely love it when I had a guy I talked to the other day. He's actually from Pratt. But he called me. We haven't talked in forever. He must be 8 years older than me. I just barely knew him when I was a kid. But he says, Cole, I'd really like to come up and do a sheep hunt or a bear hunt. I'm at that place now financially. I think I can do it. But I'm just, man, I've been out to Colorado with my buddies, and I really, really enjoy the adventure of that.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's what I'm kind of looking for. He goes,
Yeah.
I'm not really into the biggest trophy animal size. Like I don't even know really what that size is for these animals, but I'm really kind of looking for an adventure.
Yeah.
And that's what thankfully, that's what a lot of my hunters are here for.
Yeah. Well,
is an adventure, and they are there and they appreciate the animals. They're there to collect their meat as well. And so it's that is what I love. I love the adventures. And people can say, "Oh, maybe he's just not taking big animals, and so that's why he's saying he doesn't want to tell us numbers."
Yeah, big bears.
Well,
Well, like the experience.
Yeah, we take that. It's why I don't typically put the size of the animals on my Instagram or whatever. I mean, hey, it's a great old mature bear. Okay. I don't need to do a dick measuring contest with some guy, whatever. I'm there to, show the respect of the animal. To try to have a nice photo, whatever it may be. But that's what I have tried to expose people to, these types of adventures, to help grow them.
Yeah.
Is it cool to hunt with someone that really knows their stuff in the field? Oh, it's awesome. I love it when it's a team effort. That's what I try to do, things as a team effort, not just be the dictator on the hunt and have to tell everyone what to do all the time. It's a teamwork effort, but I also really love, I have some guys that are very new to hunting, and they've hunted a little bit, but very new to mountain hunting. And it's really cool that they absolutely are there to soak it up like a sponge. They ask a billion questions, but they ask it in the right way. They ask it in a way that they're just wanting to learn, and they soak it up. There's no ego, and that's what I really love doing now.
Well, not that we would be here to issue some referendum on the guiding community or outfitting community, but what you're talking about is selling an experience instead of an animal. Because you really can't sell the animal, because you can't. No. If you can begin to predict, then it's no longer hunting.
Right.
And so you can only sell the experience and say, like, here's an examples of things that we've done, animals that we've taken. Here's the examples.
Right.
This is what it is. It's a tapestry.
Mm-hmm.
Big, small, blonde, brown, whatever. But the experience is the same every time. It's a struggle. You're going to be challenged to be patient. You're going to be challenged to be tough. You're going to be challenged to be, to embrace things that you don't understand and tackle challenges you couldn't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, that is going to be always the same. And what will change is the result. Something will change along the way, whether you kill a world record XYZ or you kill a representative XYZ. whether you make a great shot or a bad shot, like that's all. Those are part of the end result of the experience that you'll have doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, like I said, I don't. Guiding is what it is. There's a lot of money in it, but I think that whole community could do well to try to shift to your mindset rather than flip trade shows with giant heads and trying to lure people in based on that. The idea that you could kill something big in those situations.
Well, and with us, like with my brown bears, okay, with my personal mindset, and most obviously all guides and hunters want to kill the biggest bear or the biggest as big as that. That's normal. But with my mindset, we only like to kill old mature boars. Okay, those are the ones that are the issue, the problem bears that do know exactly how to go through their life, and try to approach a sow that won't mate with him because she's got cubs. So no problem. He knows how to kill them because he knows that'll set her back in the heat. And so, and if she doesn't want to do that and she puts up a fight, then he just kills her and eats her too. So with that said, I don't know. I've never heard a number from Fish and Game of the cub mortality, but we know it's high, and it's not just from the boars killing them. They die naturally, but I guarantee they take out several thousand cubs each year.
Do you feel like, the other things you're thinking about for mortality rates would be predation?
Mm-hmm.
I gather there's not a whole lot of predation on bear cubs. Well, maybe there are.
It's just with bears. I mean, I don't know
just
what
other bears.
Yeah, and like where I was going with that is, as a biologically, like what we're trying to do is to harvest those old boars that are the problem ones that kill the other bears and therefore lower their population. Fish and Game allows us to harvest, whatever, we have a certain amount of tags or whatnot that they give for each area. They don't say, hey, okay, we'll let you guys kill some bears for rugs here, okay, and for trophy
We're gonna
mounts,
be real nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's not. It's for the population control, okay, for a conservation type of effort to have the right population of bears or to increase. And so therefore, with us targeting those old mature boars, we're actually increasing the amount of bears in our areas. It is unbelievable the amount of bears that used to be in our areas versus what are there now. Of where an area specifically that I've hunted for many, many, many years, 13 years maybe, I don't recall, but several years. And that area, we would never see sows and cubs. And now, we see them every day. And there's been times where I've seen 5 sets of sows and cubs, and they've all got 2 to 3 sows and cubs. So me, deep down inside, and part of me, I could have a hunter there that's wanting to do, he has his own agenda, whatever. But to me, in my mindset, it's like me looking over my crop as a farmer, and I'm extremely pleased.
Yeah.
Like seeing what we have done.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't feel like we're hunting too many bears or whatever. Yeah. And truth be told, we're the first ones to step up as a guide because we get to see, we're the first ones that step up and say maybe something to the biologist. Hey, here's, I'm thinking I'm seeing something going on here.
Yeah. Well, and I think I see it both ways because obviously bears are a wonderful topic for people to hate on, and we've done so much to I'll never say that word, anthropomorphize bears.
That's a big word.
I don't know what that means. I just heard somebody else say it on a podcast.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there because they're great and they're super friendly, and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/meateater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/meateater. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
My kid's got a bear stuffed animal. Mm-hmm. He was just in Montana. He got to hug on a big bear stuffed animal. He has one. He has bear pajamas.
Yep.
He has a bear books about bears riding bikes, but he doesn't have any books about bears eating cubs. Mm-hmm. Weird.
Yeah, we don't see that too often.
Huh. But then, so you put that emotional element into it once you've already, given this animal a certain personality or a certain way for our minds to shape them in their being. And then you got a guy like yourself who's talking about him like a crop, right? This is a very pragmatic way to look at it. It's a very common sense way to look at it. I care about these animals, care about all animals. Mm-hmm. And if I can kill some, harvest them, take the meat, give somebody an experience, and also is built in our model of conservation to hunting as a tool.
Right.
And it brings value to every animal, brings money to conservation efforts. And it's a tool for wildlife biologists to say, Cole, you and everybody like you, kill this many. Mm-hmm. And here's the tags. And then it's up to you to set the market for those tags and say how much they're worth, how much the hunts are worth, the experience is worth, and the animal at the end of the day is worth. I don't know about you. I'd love to hear from you on this, because I'm sure you run into a lot of people that question what you do for a living. Mm-hmm. But to me, that's a pretty great way to have a human interaction with bears, rather than let it go unchecked and let our interaction with them just kind of be, less substantial. It's less real.
Yeah. And, if you, when you book a hunt with me, you are coming on an amazing bear viewing trip. I mean, we get to see, and this goes with any outfitter, I'm just saying in general, when you book a brown bear hunt or whatnot, you are on the most awesome bear viewing trip that you could possibly ever get to go do. Yeah. So you get to watch all these animals. And if you want to offend me on a hunt, act like you don't care about the bears, and you don't care and you don't want to look at the bears. Because when I'm putting in the spotting scope on a sow and cub, look at these sow and cubs, and I've had some guys not care and not want to look at them and not, hey, just let me know when you see the big one, okay? That offends me. Yeah. I mean, you want to upset me, that's what upsets me. Sure, I'm not going to yell at someone, but it's just inside like, wow, what a prick. I love explaining things to people. It's my passion. Bears are such an amazing animal. Absolutely love watching them. They do the most interesting things, funny things, and just harsh things. I mean, it's mind-blowing to me about how they can just run over and tackle a cub and just rip it apart.
Have you seen that a lot?
Oh, yeah.
How often do you see that in your hunting?
I have probably 3 or 4 times. There was one time that totally amazed me, that we had a boar. We spooked a boar. We were trying to make a stalk on him. We spooked him, and he ran across the valley, or not ran, he waddled. And he went over, and there was a sow and a cub up there, and he started going up to him, and it was a first-year cub. And he made his way up towards him, and the sow, it was really steep face, and she kept going, and she abandoned her cub because she knew that, like, okay, I cannot withstand this big boar. He's going to tear me up. She abandoned the cub, and the boar went over, sniffed it, and I thought, I was so upset. I mean, I was just freaking out in my mind, like, oh, I cannot believe that we screwed up this stalk. He's going to go over there, and now we just got this cub eaten. This sucks. And he went over and sniffed it, sat down, and just like took a nap right next to it. And the cub just kind of scrambled away and got away from him. But that's like the only time that I've ever seen. Now, whether or not that was his cub, and he sniffed it and knew it was, but that is the one time I've seen that. But I have seen 3 or 4 times cubs getting ripped apart, or seen, like I saw, like where there was a den and there was a boar there. Like we actually went over on a stalk because I could tell it was a boar. Then I noticed another bear above it in the rocks, and then I noticed, finally I put it 2 and 2 together. It was blood in the snow, and he had gotten in there and was eating the cubs out of a den, and the sow was above, looking at him. And so, yeah, it's I'm pretty sure if anyone, I don't care if you're, a non-hunter or whatever it may be, I'm pretty sure if I was standing there with a gun and a non-hunter who totally disagreed with bear hunting and loved animals saw this happening, I guarantee, after listening to these cubs being torn apart, screaming, and the mom trying to get her, the boar shoving her away, biting at her, I'm pretty sure you would say, take your gun and shoot him. He's bad. Shoot him. Make him stop. As you would with in humans. I mean, you would say, make that person stop. It's unbelievable. I'm pretty sure there's not a human that just said, well, I guess that's nature.
It turns my stomach even as you're describing it.
Yeah,
I mean, man.
We've killed a number of boars that if you look on my Instagram, this spring we had a young lady that came hunting with us, her and her husband, and we saw a set of sow and cubs going across this hillside, and I had I watched them, and they were going the other way, and they were quite a ways off, and then all of a sudden, I look back, and my other guide that was with us, he's scrambling, running over to look with the spotting scope where they were, because they were going around a corner, so we had to run out another 100 yards around the valley to look back up this other side valley. And I'm like, oh, maybe he didn't see those sow and cubs, and he just saw the big sow, and so it's the wrong bear or whatever. Well, those sow and cubs went through a ditch, and there was a boar laying in that ditch, bedded. And the boar jumped up, and the sow and cubs started running, and he was going after him. He's a big fat bear, and so he couldn't go very fast, but he was on their trail, and that's what my guide saw. And so he hollers at me, and so we're looking at him, and I was like, "Wow, man, he's a long ways off," And I told our lady that we had with us, Lisa, I said, "Man, it's a long ways, but I'd really like to give it a go. If you think you're up for it," I said, "Man, he's going to go kill those cubs." And she's like, "Yep." And here you got a mom, right?
Yeah.
That's hunting, and she's got a few kids, and she's like, "Yeah, we can't let him do that." And she got around great, but you want to talk about light a fire under someone that was hiking with a purpose to get there before dark. And we hustled over there, and he had him backed up to a cliff, and you can see this on my Instagram. I have some video of it and photos of it. And so he had him backed up there, and we made our stalk. We were making our way to try to get above him, and she wanted to try to get him with her bow. But we knew that this was more important, just to get this boar killed. And so as we got closer, I said, "Man, this is going to be extremely risky for us. The only shot we had would have put us about 10 yards from the sow and cubs. And if that is if you want to think about the worst possible scenario in life, you can get next to a pissed off sow.
Yeah, who's getting threatened. Yeah.
Getting threatened, and here you are, another threat to the side. They they're just a tornado. And so and actually the trail we were going to go on to get closer to them, they end up bailing over the boar, kept pushing them, and they bailed over towards us. And I said, I'm sorry, there's no bow shot. Like they're coming right at us. Like, the sow and cubs would have to go over us basically for our egos to get a bow shot. You know what I mean? And so she took up rifle, and as soon as he came over, I mean, she smoked him. And the sow and cubs were about 15 yards to our right, and I was hollering and yelling at him, trying to get him, let him know, like, hey, I'm a human, I'm here, go the other way. And so they went the other way, and they were fine, but that it just gave you this different sense, and it made you feel like you did something. Like, okay, wow,
but you did do something.
Well, right, and so you get to watch that mother and her kids go off, and they're fine. But when you think, okay, how many times does that happen? Because he won't give up. He's not fast, but he'll never give up, and he just keeps following them throughout the night.
He'll catch them sleeping,
and he'll catch them. It will happen.
Well, just think about, you go back into how we treat bears. Just think about how that bear's mind works and how our mind works. Our mind works like, oh my gosh, why would you do that? Why would you kill an innocent thing? Like we have the ability, the compassion to have that go through our minds. That bear, that's a killing robot. Like he's not thinking, oh, these poor little beings.
No.
He's thinking, I got to eat and I got to fuck.
Yep.
That's what he's thinking.
Yep.
And for us to take an animal with a mindset like that and to turn it into cartoons and to turn it into pajamas and to turn it into stuffed animals and to turn it into Winnie the Pooh. I've always thought, and it's almost like a thing that a hunter would think or some right-wing person might think how screwed up that is. But if you are listening to this and you try to break down in your mind how fucked up it is to take an animal with the mindset that you just described, that is an evil monster that you just described. A heartless fucking killing machine. And we take this evil, heartless monster and we attach our human emotion to it, and then we make cartoons. Like, how fucked up is that? How fucked up is that?
And it's like in the same breath then you watch this great animal out there, right?
Like you're just talking about appreciating that.
And they're the most amazing creatures to watch. But like you say, as us humans, we're
applying our logic to the situation. It's like it's still a beautiful animal. It just is an animal. It is nothing more than an animal with animal instincts and needs.
I'm sorry to say this, and this could happen to me at any time. But I think Timothy Treadwell found that out.
Yeah.
And these were his
people,
bears. These were his compassion. He loved those bears, but
they're bears
they don't
at the
care.
End of the day.
They do not care.
Yeah, no, I think that goes all the way back to like how your mind adjusts once you see something like that. You see something that can be so beautiful at one moment, but then has no filter to resist the urge to do horrible things for it to survive or for it to flourish or for it to, in that case, bring a sow into heat and propagate.
It actually is mind-blowing and scares me to death sometimes thinking about bear viewing trips with some of these people that are not hunters and they've seen a lot of bears, and I get it. They watch them all the time, but they take people so close to them to get photos. They're actually harassing the animals way more than us hunters. Us hunters are stealthy. We do not want these bears knowing that we are here. Yeah. We're glassing them from afar, and we are choosing a specific target to take out, okay? The one specific. We don't need to go over and get pictures. I got to tell my guys, I'm sorry, I don't want to, there's no reason to get close to this for a picture, okay? Excuse me. Sometimes we call bears in, but I only call a bear that we are going to shoot. Because it is extremely dangerous. They come up and something triggers in them. They could just be picking dandelions, eating them, or whatever they're doing, having a great day, rolling around like a little puppy, and all of a sudden you trigger that predator sense, and they are coming, and they are running, or they could be walking. It doesn't matter, but they're coming to eat you. Okay, you have made a sound that means you are struggling as an animal, like a predator's call or another bear call, or whatever it is. they're coming to kill you.
Yeah.
And so they're not coming to be like, oh, cool. Huh, I wonder what
Well-
that dying deer is doing.
Well,
And so they're coming over. And so I do not screw around with that. So I take it very seriously. I don't just call them to come over to get pictures. And so what I say it scares me is like with these bear viewing people, they just get right up in their grill while they're feeding. And they're like, oh, it's fine. We can get up here and get these photos of them, And it's like, have you ever seen a bear like flip that switch?
Yeah.
When they do, I mean, what are you going to do? Are you
Yeah.
trained to take care of this? Yeah, you've got your pepper spray or whatever, but man, it is. So I like to think that I am more, even though I harvest bears, we shoot bears. I almost, and I can probably piss off some of my bear viewing people there in Kodiak, but I mean, I almost feel that we respect them more.
Yeah.
Just watching them from afar, I don't need to be
You're
up so
treating
close
them like
to
what they are.
Correct.
You're treating like what exactly that they are. Dangerous, wild, killing machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Beautiful, dangerous, wild killing
correct.
machines.
Yeah,
but-
spectacular animal. The thing is, I don't want to provoke, and this is, and understand when I say this, to provoke an animal and then kill it, and have to kill it
Have to
because
kill
of what you did,
Yeah.
because of you wanted to try to
Yeah,
get
you want
close.
to first desire to kill it and know why. Like, hey, that's an old mature brewer. That's a great one to take out. Now I call it. Now I can pursue it because
Correct.
I know what it is. I understand it, and it's. I've thought out the reasoning, and
Mhm.
it's not just some, killing of lust where I see a bear and I want to run up and challenge it and
Correct.
stab it with a knife.
But as unfortunately Mr. Treadwell found, he, when that bear killed him and his girlfriend, horrible thing. And it's very, very unfortunate, but that also cost, I believe, 2 bears their lives,
Yeah.
and some people say, well, they deserved it. They killed someone. I realize that, but
They're bears. That's what they
they're
do.
bears. That's what they do.
Do you deserve to get killed when you eat a steak? Like,
Right.
you have to eat. You have to live too and defend your family.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm sorry if I offend anyone by saying it, but it's just,
no.
it's one of those things where be very careful what you're doing when you're out there in the woods and how you're treating your camps and whatnot, because the worst thing you could do is to, just for your own good, to get a photo of some
Yeah.
animal, is to provoke it and then have to kill it,
Yeah.
meaning like an unprovoked,
Yeah.
or that now it has to be killed.
Yeah, well, treat them as they are.
Yeah.
As you say, treat them as they are. If you always treat them as a bear, then you'll be all right.
Right.
Like if you start treating them as a fuzzy thing to take pictures of and hang on your wall, then you're not going to be all right. You may be all right for your entire life or 10 lifetimes, but
Right.
then it becomes up to the bear.
Right.
Then it's up to the bear
And
to do
I think that
goes.
goes for I don't know how many of those videos you've seen of those lions and whatnot in Africa.
Yeah.
That people decide to get out of the truck and get a little closer
Well,
video of this cat that's laying there
remember.
flicking his tail. And
I can't remember if it was a lion. I think it was a lion. There was like a video in India of a lady getting out of her car and the lion just comes and takes her.
Mhm.
And there's like a driving zoo or like a driving photo
Yep.
park. The lion just comes and takes her and she's gone. And she actually lived because I think her mother got out of the car to try to like chase after her and grab her. Well, the lady that got initially grabbed lived. The lion comes back and kills the mother, takes
Right.
her off.
But with that, if someone was there with a gun, would have killed that lion
Yeah.
because of someone's
If you would've
human
left
fault.
if you would have let
Because
that
of
lion
human
alone,
fault.
it would have just been killing what it was supposed to kill, which
Right.
at this point, luckily for us, it's not humans.
Right.
But you imagine like that switch, right? That line goes through, that bear goes through, and you've seen it. I've never seen any shit like that before, where it flicks the switch and becomes the nature takes over
Mhm.
of the animal.
The predator.
Yeah, the
sense.
predator takes over. We don't have we have that switch. You and I both have it,
Mhm.
but we just never. It's so deep down, we just never use it. We never
Right.
even think about having to use it. But
the only time that like I could think of as like a human would be if you got in a fight
yeah,
and you get so riled up with
You
adrenaline that you're in that mode of kill mode.
Yeah.
You're in fight mode.
Oh, and I've got a goal. I've also got a goal to find someone in the world that truly has lived the bulk of their life having to kill to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Then I want to talk to that person for fucking 10 hours and find out what's it like to have to kill to survive.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And that because then we become a lot like that bear. Then that human becomes an animal just like that bear.
Mhm.
And all the constructs of our society and our minds and the way that we view the world now through our 2018 brains goes away, and deep down, all the stuff that's buried in you comes out. And then how do you then look at that animal if you have to kill it to survive?
Right. I'm sure there's plenty of African tribes still having to deal with this. Yeah.
But that's part of when you talk about that, I think about that a lot. Like I want to talk to somebody because we always talk about meat, and we talk about eating wild meat is this like exalted thing that you and I do. But at the end of the day, we don't have to do that.
Right.
We have a choice. We make the choice to do it because it fulfills us, but we don't have to do it to survive. We're not hungry when we shoot a deer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even, I know several people in Alaska that live true subsistence lifestyle. Yes, they have a cabin or a house or whatnot they've built that they live in. But they need to harvest these black-tailed deer. If there's family of 4 or 5 kids or whatever it is, they need to harvest, 7 or 8 deer or whatever it is to get through their winters. And I realize all those amazing Alaska shows they have out there nowadays of like, oh man, we've got to get this thing built before.
Is it? Yeah. How beautiful. Polar bear ate me at the end. No, but I even those folks have a choice, right? Because they could get in their car.
They could go live in
to
town.
The airport, fly to town, and choose to live there the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I'm talking about some motherfucker that doesn't have a choice.
Right.
I don't know.
Sure.
It just literally does not have a choice. In their mind, they cannot think of a time where they could do what you and I do.
I think the closest that you and I have probably experienced was probably, and I can't speak for you, but to look into those people's eyes and to watch the Nepali people.
Oh yeah. All day long.
I mean, and you almost feel foolish.
You feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
You feel like
you do.
an idiot.
I shouldn't say almost. You do.
You feel like an idiot. There's tangible ways. Like you, in the film that we put out for Yeti, you described it as like, oh, I'm wearing Italian hiking boots and they're wearing flip-flops with duct tape. That's a tangible way to look at it. Like that's a pretty good metaphor for the way they live their life and the way we live ours. But when you talk to these people, or at least try to gather some of their intelligence and the knowledge that they have, you realize you are a soft dummy. Like the way that we've constructed our society is to strip away all the good things that these people innately just have and don't know that they have. For example, never having seen a chainsaw, for example, looking at a tree and being like, well, I need that thing to fall over and I need to cut it up so it can be warm. And all I have is this rusty old fucking axe. It's going to take me 6 months to cut that tree down, but that is the way my life. That's the only option that I have.
You remember the guys in the village where we first camped that first night. I remember when I got really sick that morning.
Yeah.
I ate something bad or did something, and I had explosive vomiting. I mean, I don't remember the last time I've ever puked, and it was, unbelievable how badly I puked. But I remember sitting in my tent because we didn't go anywhere that day because they sent the porters ahead to go check the pass out to see how deep
we were
the
shooting our
snow was.
rifles in. You could barely get out.
Yeah, and so I was so sick just in there and in my tent. But I remember hearing this guy chopping a tree, and they fell a tree. It was a good sized tree.
It was a big old live oak, wasn't it? Like a giant
and
tree.
so I remember them chopping. I could just hear chop, 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 across this valley, and it goes down. But then later on, we went up to that house, and they were cutting up all this board feet of lumber with hand saws and trying to make like trim or whatever it was for their home, or these door frames or something. And me, I come from a small building background, and helping home builders out and doing finish work. And so it amazed me to go watch these guys. I got out of the tent. And I thought, man, I want to go over and see what's going on over there. Like, it amazed me. I've always thought, back of my brain, like, man, it'd be really cool to go build a log cabin like the real way. And so I, went over to go watch these guys work, and it was unbelievable, very humbling. But for us to see that, and that's just their life. Like, that's what they do.
Well, we went out hunting with our 21 porters and our fucking Nepali pizza and our giant tents and stuff. Went out hunting and came back, and they were still chopping on that tree when we came back. Remember?
Yep.
Same tree, like 3 dudes just up there chopping away.
It was a guy and his wife, and I think a kid.
Yeah, there was a kid there too,
Yeah.
like an 8 or 9-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And but like, think about those people. Like, we met them.
Mhm.
They did not have the ability to think about an easier way to do that.
Mhm.
They had never seen it. I mean, they were 6 days walk from the nearest road in the middle of the western Himalayas. Like, they couldn't think, well, I saw on TV a chainsaw. I wonder
There was
how
no dishes there. There was
no
dish TV.
Yeah. They're just like, I saw on Home and Garden about
No smartphones.
people that were you could make your own chainsaw. They didn't. This was the only thing that they knew,
Mhm.
and because it was the only thing that they knew, it was happy to them.
Mhm.
And I was made a post on Instagram the other day about, like, when I was a kid hunting, we didn't know how to score a deer, so we didn't give a shit.
Right.
And the point is, like, it was a time in my life that had almost zero perspective in regards to hunting, but I didn't need any perspective because
Right.
I was happy shooting a deer, counting the points, and hanging out with my dad. These people are the same way. They have zero perspective on our world, but they don't need perspective on our world.
Right. When I was first deer hunting, I also lived in Missouri. We moved up to Leeson, Missouri for a while, and went to actually high school, Leeson North. But where I first went deer hunting with Grandpa Glenn, the guy who got me actually into hunting. I know one of my family really hunted, but through some people at church, they introduced me to this guy, Glenn, and but regardless, I remember when he he took me down to his farm for my first hunt, and I recall before the deer season, I said, and I'd seen on TV all these, like, whatever they do, food plots, put out stuff, and I remember Stephen and I were talking, which is Glenn's grandson, real grandson. We said, man, maybe we could get some of this or this, and we could put out some of that stuff. And so we went to go tell that to Grandpa Glenn, and we kind of like were presenting what we wanted to do on his land.
Yeah.
And he's like, boy, them goddamn horns are hard to eat. You're going to learn that someday, and just walked off. And we were both just like, what? And the point is, like, we didn't care.
Yeah.
We shot does. We got meat. That's what he grew up in, a very poor family, and that's all they cared about was meat.
Yeah. We'll talk about the reverse of the spectrum, right? Like, we were talking about adventure shit. We create this society, which makes us fucking soft, and then we go out to get adventure to sharpen up. And then on the opposite side, when society was a little rougher, there was men like Grandpa Glenn who didn't need to go out. That Grandpa Glenn sounds like a sharp dude. Like, he wasn't very dull. He wasn't going to McDonald's and picking up, like, and watching football all Sunday.
No,
he was a sharp. Like, sounds like he was a sharp
hard-working guy.
And so generations past, people were sharp innately because they had to be to survive. Now we've softened the fuck out of that, now you and I feel like adventuring is the way to, like, reverse osmosis.
People hire me to make them feel pretty cool,
like Grandpa Glenn. Like, people hire you to be like, well, give me, what's it like to be self-sufficient for 7 days? Like, this motherfucker is self-sufficient everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, Nepal was kind of like getting in a time machine and then being like, dude, this was not long ago. In the 1800s, people lived like the folks that we met in Nepal.
Yeah.
That's 3 humans ago. 3 humans ago, this is what it was. Now we're so connected to everything that we suck at this.
Well, when I was, so reading some of the books about Nepal, they talked about, like, reading Snow Leopard and whatnot. They talked about how they would go through the mountains and they would stop in these villages, and they would try to collect porters. And as they went, some of the porters would drop out and they would try to get new ones from other villages. Guess what? That's exactly what they were still doing when we went. Remember, they hiked in from the road with their core group.
Oh, yeah.
Mon and those guys.
From
and
his
then
village.
They would stop at some villages and pick up porters.
Yeah.
Okay? And they would just come in. There was no email sent ahead of time saying, hey, have your guys ready tomorrow. Whoever wants to go, they'll get paid this. Not that I know of, at least. But, like, they show up. Who wants to go? You drop what you're doing. Could be the axe, and then they would go. And from what I understood, and I could be wrong, but you got like single load pay, and then you got double load pay.
Yep.
Remember when we were hiking out, that poor guy sitting there?
God, that fucking guy.
I mean, all these guys are like soaking wet 120 pounds or something, but like he had just ginormous load, and we stopped along the way, and we were almost up to the helipad or whatever, but I said,
we were going
hey,
back
do we need to help you?
There.
Do you want some help? And he was like, no. But his back was bad. But one of the other guys said, no, he won't. He can't let you do that because if you take something from him, the others will see, and then he won't collect his full pay.
Yeah.
Because he signed on for double loads, and so then he would get paid more.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean,
just for I guess we could say folks that don't know what we're talking about. Cole and I went to Nepal a year and a couple of months ago for a blue sheep hunt in the Himalayas, and filmed it for Yeti with Renan Ozturk and Ben Ayers, Camp 4 Collective. And so that this is the hunt we went on. And I don't know that you and I, like, when we talk about this hunt, hopefully we'll get old together and be able to talk about it many years from now. But, like, I don't know that we'll sit around and, like, look at those blue sheep and be like, look how big the damn horns are on those sheep. Or remember that time remember my shot? We'll be talking about this kind of stuff.
Right.
Because I truly did feel at the time, in fact, I may have wrote this somewhere, that it was like, I've always thought, like, if I got in a time machine, where would I like to go? Like, what period in human history would I like to travel to? And you go over there, and it's like getting in a time machine. If you really examine the humans that you meet.
Sure.
Because they do not have the capacity to want as we do. They do not have the capacity to be vain that we have. They don't have the capacity to, they don't have mirrors to look in. They just live their lives day by day, and they're happy. And they work hard when they're working, and they celebrate hard when they're celebrating, and they have a culture of reverence for everything.
Sure. Yeah. When that day, I think I went over into that house where they were cutting up the wood to use for the materials in their home. We just walked in to this home, and Samshir and I did. And there was a lady there, and she had a young little daughter, and I'm not sure how old she was. She could have been 12. I'm not really sure. Hard to tell. But she came over and she had seen a camera before, right? But like, she just looked at it and kind of pointed. And I took the camera up and took a picture of her. And she smiled, and then she was like, she wanted to see it. And so she came over, and I showed her the back, and she was like, and like, just like, then she started touching her hair and her face, and she immediately went outside. And I was like, oh, wow, that was kind of okay. Yeah. And she came back in, and she looked a little different. And then she was like pointing to her, and I said, oh, you want another picture? So I took another picture, and she wanted to see it again. And she felt, I think, better about herself on the second picture, but definitely like the normal girl. Like, let me get a picture. Oh, that wasn't very good.
So,
but you
ruined her whole life, Cole.
Yeah. But there was no mirrors in that house. Yeah. And I just think she's like, oh, I feel a little rough, like the way she looked or something.
And when we got back from the hunt, young girl. She had Marie Claire cosmetics.
Yeah.
And she was selling them out of the back of her hut.
She had Mary Kay.
Yeah, she was a Mary Kay saleswoman. She was driving a pink BMW. It was crazy how quickly she picked it up.
Oh, man.
She picked up the way to be a human in our world. But yeah, that kind of stuff. I remember being over there, and this is the hamlet of Dule Yarsa. How many thousands of people go to an hour and a half west or east of where we were to Everest Base Camp. Thousands of people a year go there.
Sure.
And to what they told us, there was dozens of people maybe in a year's time, outsiders or Westerners or foreigners, for lack of a better term, to visit that village.
Yeah.
That village was we took a 45-minute, hour-long helicopter ride.
Yeah.
West of Kathmandu. Made one stop for fuel. I can't remember the town we stopped in for fuel.
Is that Pokhara, or it wasn't Pokhara?
No, it wasn't Pokhara. It might have been. Well, not that it matters, but we're somewhere deep in the heart of the Himalayas.
Yeah.
And these people that it was astonishing. And then I remember thinking, like, even reading Snow Leopard and not really picking up a lot of it, and being really worried about not learning enough about the culture.
Sure.
Like, not coming back like a stupid American and being like, "Ooh, that was fun." They're like, "Well, how is it over there?" I'm like, "Well, it's dirty," but you couldn't really explain the culture because Hinduism and Buddhism and those caste systems are complicated. But then when I got back, I feel like you met those people, you learned about who they were.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough to get the perspective that you needed.
Yeah, it felt great to. They're a very loving people. I've been some other places in the world where that feeling is just not quite there,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't get to quite do the things that we just went and did, like
Yeah.
walking into people's homes or whatnot. I've been in some places where I did not feel that welcome, and these people, they are such a loving people. I mean, I couldn't believe how welcoming they were.
And born from how much hardship. Think
Oh,
about the Civil War that went on there,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a decade before we arrived, the catastrophic earthquake that
Mm-hmm.
had happened 3 years, I believe, before we arrived, or
Mhm.
less. People in Dule Yarsa telling us stories about the I believe it was the police force coming in.
Yeah, I can't remember if they thought they were rebels or something of that nature.
That area was kind of the belly of the rebellion,
Mhm.
the communist rebellion against the government, the dictator, and the royal family and those caste systems. And that I think as Shewa was the one lady's hut that we went and sat
Mhm.
around the fire, and I think she was explaining that all the men that were in that room were thought to be rebels, and we'll probably screwing this all up, but
Yeah, but
police force came in and just shot them all.
yeah,
and
they
drug
got
'em out.
into an argument and they said, "You guys are part of this," and basically they weren't. They were just sitting there enjoying their evening, and these people with guns come in and shoot them all and drag them out and throw them
Yeah.
into the water ditch
Yeah.
where we were all sitting right there and seeing everything, and it's kind of like, oh, that sounds like a story they would have done hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
Nope, that
was
happened.
2002,
Yeah.
whenever it would have happened. Yeah. No, and then, Man Bahadur, our main guide, telling stories about during that same time period being conscribed by, I believe it was by the rebels,
Mhm.
to essentially be a poacher to feed the army,
Mhm.
and all the things he had to go through. So yeah, I mean, if you are incredulous enough to go through that experience, and when somebody says, "How was it?" and you'd be like, "Killed a big sheep."
Yep.
You are beyond repair in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and people always like, "Oh, what do? You just mount it and stuff like that?" It's like, well, yes, of course I mount this beautiful animal, but like when to me, yeah, sure you can just do pictures or whatever, but to me, I like it when people come over to my home or wherever and I can show them, this animal, this blue sheep. A child could come over and see it and maybe put their hands on the hide and whatnot. But it's one of those things, like, to me, when I look at that animal, I don't care how big it is, right, on my mounts or whatever. It's just one of those things when you look at them but you remember. It's like a memory,
yeah.
And that's what, like you said earlier, it doesn't really matter how big the horns are. Oh, what did it measure? I don't know. I've been asked by some people,
How big was your
how big
sheep?
was your sheep? I'm like, I have no idea. It was an old broke up ram that I was so pumped to see that sheep.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was my dream, was to take an old ram that probably won't live through the winter, or very many more by any means. And so that was like amazing. I have no clue what those horns measured. We never did put a tape on them. It doesn't matter.
I don't even think we ever thought about that. I know
No.
people ask me that too, like, how big is sheep? And I'm like, listen, I have no idea. I can tell you that I think it's sad that what you said about taxidermy is sad to me, because you and I went to Kodiak, killed two big old black-tailed deer. You guided me and I shot them. And there's so much more to that story than just that. But I had him, Chris Kamak,
Mhm.
our mutual buddy, made a great double pedestal mount for me. Like,
Yeah,
a
beautiful.
stupendous gift of him, for those animals to be like that, to be presented in that way. And I had my sister-in-law came to my house, And she was just like looking at it really weird. She's like, "Oh yeah, those must be really big ones, huh? You must feel really nice to show off how big your animals are you killed." Like immediately going into the CNN,
Right.
the CNN, MSNBC bullshit media description of what taxidermy is.
Mhm.
And I just immediately was like, and I just said to her, "It's sad that you presume that's why that's there.
Mhm.
It's sad to me that your presumption in seeing that animal mounted in that way is that I want you to see how big it is.
Mhm.
I'm sad for you.
Yeah.
Like I would love for you to ask me like, where did that animal live?
Mhm.
Tell me about the natural history of Kodiak black-tailed deer, and tell me the story of how it came to be there."
Mhm.
But that's not.
Yeah,
that's not
it's okay as a non-hunter or for someone to be curious and asking question. That's okay. You can ask someone why did you mount that? But I think as us hunters, and that kind of goes, we could go off on all sorts of, rabbit trails on that. But be prepared as a person. Be prepared to
Yeah.
tell people and to educate people why you do it. Don't be that redneck.
Yeah.
that-
Well, that's two big ones.
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, to me, like especially like those deer and stuff, like, I mean, that trip, what an amazing memory and an amazing respect to that animal to use 100% of that animal.
Oh my God, yeah. And I told her, I said, I've long since eaten those deer, and I
yeah.
that's okay.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there because they're great and they're super friendly and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land? Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where Land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to Land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
And I traveled with those deer, their hides and their heads and their flesh, from Alaska back here, and then we ate them right here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there they are.
Yeah,
that's not them, but that's that's a facsimile of what they were like.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I love European mounts, and as much, like we were talking about this, I'm like, the head of a white-tailed deer and a black-tailed deer and a coos deer
mm-hmm.
looks just about the same. And like, you're not, if I held up a coos deer skull and a black-tailed deer skull, you could, if you're a hunter and you know the animals, you could probably say that, pick them out.
Mm-hmm.
But what a difference to see a whitetail mount and a Kodiak blacktail mount. It's like different. It's
different colors and
so I'm thinking, I want to see this animal the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to me to see that. And so, that part sucks. I hate when people do that, but I also know why they do, because we've had a very bad, like you said, done a fucking real bad job of making taxidermy about what we're talking about,
Right. And it's artwork. If you talk to Chris, like, this is art that he is trying to bring back and recreate life here.
Mm-hmm.
It should be when someone walks in, wow, that is a beautiful animal. Wow. And they may not know what type of animal it is, but to walk in somewhere and see a life-size, whatever it may be, I mean, it should not be a scary looking thing, know. And so if it's good taxidermy, it should be done beautifully. And it's great to be able to, like, take kids and show them, like, oh, this is how big this is. This is how big that is. This is what this is. And why do they have that? Well, they have horns because of this reason. So to educate people, but it is what it is. But people are gonna hate, and
we've done a bad, like, homes, right? Taxidermy in homes is
Mm-hmm.
normally gathered into a one room, right? We call it a trophy room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part, those things are just part of the project. You gather them all together like a collection,
Mm-hmm.
rather than presenting them in your home as like a tapestry of your life,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I want to try to do. I'm building a new home right now, and I think about, like, how do I present my hunting life in this home,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just like, how do I stack them all up in a barn or something,
right?
So people can see all of it together. I like it because, like, you walk through my room and you see that, yes, hunting is happening in my life, but it's not. These animals aren't there as a collection of all the things I've done. It's my experiences, personified in a weird sense. So I wonder, and stuff that Chris Kamek does, like, that shit will last forever. Like, those deer will last as long as I'm alive, and probably to my children.
Sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah, they're just, it's a great memory. Like I said, that's the way I look at it. I love looking at something like that and looking at the beauty of it and just remembering that animal. And knew that and know that we did the most respectful thing that we could after taking its life.
Well, and then in those two deer's case, we hunted those deer. It wasn't a very spectacular, like, we could tell the story of the hunt. It was mostly just like Nepal. It'd be the story of how cold it was and how windy it was.
Mm-hmm.
The story of hunting them was very much like, you knew where the big deer hung out, or at least where some deer hung out. We went up, we found them, got lucky enough to get them both,
mm-hmm.
in a pretty, for that country, pretty easy scenarios with a rifle. But then after that, we ate them in camp,
mm-hmm.
for our survival, and 80 mile an hour wind gusts in December in Kodiak. We packed them into a rafted down a river. That river froze. Then we pulled their fucking frozen heavy flesh heads out of our rafts, built our camp back up, and then the next day hiked the frozen meat and heads.
Six deer.
6 full deer, 4 or 5 of us hiked these things out. What was that, a couple miles?
We went, I think it was 4 miles.
4 miles. I keep saying
way.
2. I'll take 4 all day.
Yeah, no, it's
4
you
miles.
were delirious.
Yeah, I was still here. 4 miles to our pickup point, and, like, that's my experience with that meat. And then it went into a plane. Then it went in the head too. Then it went to a plane. Then it went to Kodiak. Then it went in a cooler. Then it went with me to my home and went in my freezer.
Mm-hmm. And it's feeding your family. It's the whole experience. Yeah, it's not like Ben doesn't sit here and go, man. Whenever we've told these stories, it's not like you're not telling people, oh, you should see how big these bucks were.
They were two giant.
They were
blacktails.
Giant bucks, but it was our adventure. Was like we talked. It was an unbelievable adventure, and it truly. When you have those hardships, like going back to what we talked about earlier on, when you have those hardships, it makes you appreciate things.
Yeah.
And once we finally, because it ended up taking us, we did 3 trips to get, all this deer meat that we'd corded up in our packs and our personal camp gear and everything, out to get picked up by plane. And so, I mean, all this hardship, it all comes down, when every morsel of that meat, when you're eating it,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, your family's appreciative, but it's like as the hunter who pulled the trigger or hiked it out, I don't care. You don't have to pull the trigger, but when you help someone a part of that hunt and you're sitting there cutting your meat and putting it in your mouth, it's just like, wow, I remember this.
Yeah.
I remember what we did.
Yeah. It's like putting life back in your fucking body.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, man, I tell my wife all the time, we got in a little bit of a spat recently, and I've said this on the podcast before, but like I've continually just said, like, hey, look, if you overcook a piece of meat, who am I? I'm terrible at cooking. I'm no fancy cook. But like, let's have an idea of like why I might get upset if the last piece of Kodiak blacktail backstrap gets overcooked and left on the counter. Just if I'm upset, I'm not upset at you for your cooking skills. I'm upset for the opportunity to consume more of that animal, enjoy that in a way that I want to. So her and I keep going back and forth. She keeps bringing it back to, you're a dick. You keep making fun of my cooking. I'm like, no, I don't. It's not about that for me. I appreciate that you cooked it. I just want you to understand that, like, it's important to me that we really have reverence for this piece of meat, that we don't just stew it up, or we don't just, like, we think about it and we celebrate it, and we don't just, throw it in a taco. And,
Right.
So her and I maybe will never get on. We probably will never get on the right wavelengths with that, but we continue to go back to it because I'm like, I'm never going to not be upset if the last tenderloin is cooked to 180 degrees. Not that she does that all the time. Sorry, honey. You're wonderful in every way.
Here, I made some burnt ends.
Yeah, I made some burnt ends. It says tenderloin on the package.
Yeah.
And so we are always going back and forth about that. Because I'm like, you got to reverse sear it and then get in the Traeger. She's like, I'll just throw it in the oven. It's fine. It tastes delicious. And so it's always, but yeah, that just goes back to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't go back and get this.
Right. One of the things that
Get
I've
this
always
into
wanted to do in my dining room, I always thought it'd be cool. I just bought a house and I'm going to start trying to put stuff together. But I always thought this little thought in my brain, because I do appreciate so much of where my meat comes from. I want to have like a little TV screen or one of those like photo album things right there at the end table. Like when you have like a group of people over,
those, like,
and have
digital
like
deals.
photos
Yeah.
of the hunt and of the animal going in the background. And maybe some people that like freaks me out, but I'm talking me personally. I feel like what a way to remember how I got this or how my hunter got this animal, and to just remember. It's like in remembrance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like when you're in church and you go take the communion and and you're praying and you're remembering, and so for me, I always thought, man, that'd be really cool to have like just a little screen there, and maybe some people wouldn't even know what it was, because you don't want some people because you know how that would go with some people that aren't. It's like, oh,
Okay,
God,
before
that was
dinner,
the
I have
animal.
a 94 slideshow that we're. You sit there. I know you're hungry, but you sit there and you watch every slide
But
about this animal that I've killed.
that's right. But no, for me though, I just think like, even if it's just me by myself, I just think like it, like to pull up the photo of that animal or a couple of pictures of the trip. To me, that like makes
Yeah.
me, I don't know, makes me more happy and makes
Yeah.
me think about the respect part of it. That
I-
won't be for everyone. Your wife may not like that. What's that? That's what's in your mouth.
Yeah, there's the gut pile.
That's Ben.
There's Ben.
That's Ben. He pooed his pants before that. That was a picture.
How many times?
Oh.
When we were in Nepal, how many times total did you and I poop our pants? And like, let's get into. I'm happy to get into what pooing, like what shitting your pants really, like the definition of it, because we have the thing we call the shart,
Right. And
which is just. I mean, there was hundreds of those.
yeah,
Hundreds and hundreds of those.
the problem, yeah, you sometimes, I guess, from what I've heard, when when you go to places like that, it's the types of food you eat and maybe the richness of it. I love when people stare
Chris
at the bus.
Chris Kamak, the taxidermist, is out there. He's looking in.
Chris,
Hey,
we're telling a really important story here. So, anyways, apparently the diet that you're fed sometimes, and I think even Renan and those guys said, yeah, typically when you come over once a trip, you'll get some stomach issues.
Well, everything's dirty. Like the water you can't drink the water. The fruit's hard to eat because it's washed in the water.
Yeah,
so
I mean, and it's not like the outfitter does a great job and good food and all that kind of stuff. It's not really the point. It's like, it's just everything is done a little differently, and apparently it's fairly common to get sick.
Yeah.
And so it hit me first, and I was explosive vomiting, and so but it kind of passed through me fairly quick that one day, and then after that I was pretty good.
Yeah, when you were in 10, I was doing acclimation hikes. And
right,
like, I'm the alpha male. Cole is a pussy.
That's right. It's so when I remember just sitting in my tent, and like the only time I would get out, I had to go to the bathroom. And I mean, yeah, you'd be sitting there thinking, oh, it's just a little gas, and you know how that goes. And all of a sudden, whoa, and you have to bail out of your tent because it's getting ready to get really messy inside your sleeping bag. There were those darn, what do they call it? The Tibetan squirts or something.
The Kathmandu flu.
Yeah. But regardless, so that went through me fairly quick, but it seemed like the next day, like the days after, that's when it hit everyone. And I believe Renan was starting to feel like some stomach pains and this and that and the other. But yeah, there was probably, I think 3 out of 4 of us definitely had some
scrub out our underpants.
Had some things happen.
Well, this is an open forum. Just discuss it freely.
Yes.
Like, don't feel like you have to sugarcoat what happened.
Right. I recall, and I mean, Renan's, I don't think he'll get too upset, but I recall, what was it that, we were asking, each morning, like, hey, man, how you feeling? You doing okay? And I remember I was either out of the tent or I could hear him in the tent, and it's like, hey, Renan, how you feeling? No, I'm feeling better, but last night was a little rough, and it's like, oh, okay. What happened? He's like, well, I had to use the bathroom, and I didn't make it out of my sleeping bag. I mean, and there, you just, when it's getting ready to hit, you don't. I mean,
well, here's my story, the story of my. This might be a good way to end the podcast. So they never have any.
We're not going to end on poo, okay?
Yes, we are, because that's our relationship. We've had more hard times with our underpants than it. I was in the height of, well, it was right. It was as you were, the morning before you went out and shot your sheep, when we got really into the area where we knew we could hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been puking all day, couldn't really get out of my tent. Anytime I'd move, my body would just like quiver with fucking pain, stomach, head, just my whole existence was being attacked. And I would just be, at some point during the night, I was puking in my vestibule.
Mm-hmm.
And I distinctly remember you waking up and going, Ben, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay, Cole. Just letting it rip in the vestibule. And it was bad. That was a rough time.
Yeah, and what was it, the day before this all happened? I mean, this kind of stuff hits you with, like, especially like altitude sickness or whatnot. I mean, when you were hiking on the trail, everything was fine, and then what was it when you stood up? All of a sudden, it.
I was in the snow. All of a sudden, it was when when our donkeys or our mules got stuck in that pass,
mm-hmm.
and we had just summited the very first summit out of camp,
mm-hmm.
and
we were going through a pass, and it was like the north side of a mountain where there was really deep snow, and the donkeys were loaded with all this gear with the porters, and it was too deep of snow. They were post holing, and so they had to offload all the stuff, and the porters were running a load of gear up, and then we're going to come back and grab the rest of it. And so we were just taking our time along the trail.
We were stopped while they were filming some of it and trying to figure out what we were going to do. And as we were stopped, nobody saw this, but I was like standing up, and then all of a sudden I wasn't standing up anymore. Like I was just sitting in the snow or laying in the snow or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, that's interesting. And then from then on, it was just my head was gone. Like my brain was just not functioning. I was seeing things. I saw a wolf and a little baby. And then, not only the scarier than that kind of stuff was the like walking, but not being able to understand like if your arms were moving or if your legs were moving or if they were doing the right things. Like your brain is not talking to your extremities anymore because it doesn't have enough oxygen to really do its job.
Mm-hmm.
And that was scary. And then I got over that, thank God, because you guys were discussing my exit.
Yeah,
from the trip.
We were going to use our emergency exit plan, Global Rescue, to get Ben out because we thought because when I saw you because Renan and I got to camp and I kept looking back with binoculars down the valley, it's like, where is Ben? You and Ben Ayers. I thought, where are you guys? And finally, when I saw you guys pop out of those trees, like a mile down or however far, he was holding your hand or holding your arm,
hold my
walking
shoulders
with
yeah.
you. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And you guys were going one step at a time.
Oh, yeah.
And when you finally got you there, we kind of just, we just thought, okay, it's only going to get worse. Like for you, like we have to go higher and further. Like, I just don't know if this is going to work. And we were discussing how we're going to, there was, because I think you went through some of this for a couple of days. Or how many days was that?
For that, I mean, that was just that one experience. But then I slept. So what I think happened and what Ben was talking about was like I didn't get the flu, but I was getting the flu. Like I was getting the old Kathmandu flu at the same time we hit that high altitude, and I was so dehydrated. Like my body was kind of battling everything.
Yeah.
That it just kind of attacked me all at once. I remember sitting down in the main tent with you guys and being so fucking cold, but it wasn't really that cold that day, but I was so fucking cold that I just felt like my whole body was breaking down. I was cold. I didn't really know what was going on. And they put me in that big North Face puffy jacket.
A big old
Remember, I just fucking like sat against that chair. And they have filmed interviews like, what's going on, Ben? I'm like, I don't know, man. The mountain's trying to kill me.
Yeah, it's like, let's just go lay you down. And you're like, no, leave me here.
Yeah,
Don't move me.
Just don't touch me. And I went out and peed. Then I remember standing up to walk out and go pee, which I did, and realizing I could walk. And then I was like, now I can make it to my tent.
Mm-hmm.
I went over to the tent. I laid down and slept for 12 hours or something.
Yep.
And they had given me Diamox and given me a bunch of anti-nausea, pumped me full of stuff and full of fluid. Slept for 12 hours, and I think the Diamox did its job.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt better when I woke up.
Yeah.
Better enough to eat breakfast with everybody, and then was given the order like go hike up there and see if you can.
Right. Well, at that point, because I think I had taken my RAM the day before, and the goal was to get you the RAM closest to camp.
Well, you hadn't taken your RAM yet when that was happening. We hadn't even gone.
To the next camp.
That's
right. We had to go to the next.
That was the camp
one more camp to go.
That was the camp we were hiking to.
The
camp we were hiking to when I had altitude sickness, whatever it was.
That was
the
our first spike camp.
That was our first camp.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, they said, "Hey, go." We all agreed. We remember we did some interviews for the.
That's right.
We did interviews for the film, and then I went off with Raju, one of our main guides.
Yeah, you went ahead.
And they said, go ahead, and if you have any troubles,
that's right.
We're pulling the plug on this bitch.
That's right. That's right.
And as we get going, I'm starting feeling pretty good. Raju and I were laughing. He's like, oh, you're better now. Thank goodness. And we get going. We get up. Mon is way ahead of us. Our main guide, Mon, is way ahead of us scouting for sheep. Well, we get up to where Mon is. He sees a sheep. He's trying to show me where it is. And as I'm looking up the valley to try to find these sheep in the alpine, my stomach explodes. Like I got what you had 2 days prior now, post my altitude sickness or mountain sickness or whatever I had going. Now I've got the secondary attack of immediately just doubled over in pain. And then I know you guys, they radioed back, say, hey, we got some sheep. You guys all come forward out of camp.
Yeah.
And by the time you get there, I'm already kind of laid up against a bank.
That's right.
In a pretty bad way. But now it's not altitude sickness. Now it's, my stomach is turning in knots. And so we glass those sheep up. Mon gives us we're hunting now. We're not just walking. We're hunting now. Gives us the speech. Listen to Mon. Follow Mon. And I'm like, I remember him talking, and I'm just like, dude, this is the most miserable. What is this? And remember, we hiked forward to the next camp.
Right.
And you guys were then again ahead of me. By the time I got there, I collapsed in the snow by the time I got there, and they put a tent up, and I just crawled in that thing. And it was that night when I was puking out of the vestibule. And then that evening, in the middle of the night, I get up. I've got to take a shit. I get Ben Ayers, our medic, comes over to help me. I'm struggling. I'm like weak. I haven't eaten anything for a while. And he gets me up, and I pull my pants down, and it's just like I can't stand up. And I fell over in the snow, and I laid in the snow, my pants down, and I let it fly.
I'm not laughing at you.
I'm laughing with you.
I'm laughing with you.
And in the night, there was our Nepali porters came with their flashlights as I laid in the snow. And they were like, "Are you okay? You okay?" I'm like, "Look at me.
Do I look okay?
I am not okay. I am dying here."
Yeah, that's
you
right.
are.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what, and that's when they said that's when they said you need to go up and shoot these sheep. Ben will not be able to get around.
They said Ben's not going to get. Yeah, that was like decided upon that I was not going to be hunting. And I went in my tent while you went hunting the next day.
Yep.
And just laid there all day long.
Yep.
24 hours just laying in my tent. They would bring me all types of food, and every smell of every food they brought made me puke again.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "Oh, we bring curry chicken."
You like
I'm
curry?
Like, "Ah!" "Oh, we bring curry pizza." "Ah!" "Oh, we bring curry tea."
Oh, man.
"Oh, we brought you apple." Blah. Then so a full day of that. But then that evening, you guys returned, and I was feeling like I think I ate some rice or something. And then you guys got back, and I saw your faces, and I was like, "Oh my God, Cole is one of the toughest people I know. Renan Ozturk is probably the toughest person I've ever met." And you guys looked like you'd been through a battle.
Yeah, it was blowing. I remember it was blowing 40, 50 mile an hour up top there. And we were so wind burnt. My lips were so chapped and burnt. The roof of my mouth was burnt. I mean, that was a big push of a day.
Had been through, and from my perspective, having like almost already being too weak to do very much at all.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I got up at one point during that day when you were out, doing the real hard stuff, and I'm like, I think I could get to the creek down there. It was like 100 yards away. I couldn't make it. I had to go back.
Right. Well, and it was that. What do we say? Say, listen. I think I stayed back and I worked on the sheep that next day, and they decided to take you for a little hike because they said if you got to go try this, otherwise we got to go.
No, remember they came. They're like, you got your sheep, and they came back and they said, "Can you go? Can you go hunting?" I'm like, I can try, but I got to lay here more. Like I can't. I got to eat something and try to like stand up. I haven't stood up in 30 hours. Let me figure out how to get going here. And then Mon came back, was like, "There's a sheep close to camp. It's your only chance, you wussy."
You must get up.
You must get up, you weakling. And he took me up there, and we got up that freaking hill. But I couldn't. I said, "Look, I can't carry anything." There was no ego in it for me at that point. I was pretty weak, and I just said, "Pack whatever you can in my pack, and just get the rifle and let's go." And they, we summited probably, I don't know what we went up, 1,000 feet, maybe 1,200 feet, and it was pretty gradual. And they were, there was like an old lady crossing the road. They were always like wanting to grab my elbow and wanted to help me up.
They were doing the best they could. To help
you. They understood I was in a bad way. And Mon later said, I didn't think there was no way.
Yeah.
Like in the interview, like, no, he looked like pretty fit, I guess, but
I like how they put that in that video.
Yeah, and then they put it in the video like it was talking about you.
Yeah. He's like, he's wussy man.
Yeah, wussy man Cole. But yeah, and then we got up there. We get up to these sheep, and they're like 300 or 400 yards away, and we realized that they had not packed my rangefinder. And I subsequently, and I felt pretty desperate to kill a sheep.
Yeah.
And get back out of there. And I took a shot I shouldn't have took because I didn't. They were like 300, and I'm like, meters or yards? I don't 300. And it turns out, I shot way over its back. One shot, sheep run away. I just remember thinking, well, what a miserable, what a failure this has been.
So close.
So close. But I feel better, but not strong enough. And then I said, trying to go get water out of my Yeti bottle, and they had poured boiling water into my Yeti bottle, which, as anyone knows, has a Yeti bottle, it doesn't get any cooler with time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to take a large drink of water and poured boiling water down my throat and on my face.
Lovely experience.
And then just lost it. And I feel bad even to this day for losing it like I did, just like, just at my wit's end with like this continual
right
things. And after seeing you go up and shoot a sheep, I'm like, man, I'm not that far away from this. It's not hard, it's not easy, but being healthy, I think I could do it. Like,
sure,
I think I could do it. And then that night we all talked about it, and then we pretty much decided, let's go. Like, got back to camp. I was feeling pretty shitty, but I got back all right.
Well, I think that fire, it was lit in you at that point in time. I could see that you were pissed. You were frustrated. And it was like, it was good though, because I'm like, I think he looks better. He got up there. And yeah, they basically said, I mean, you can put it your way, but I know how we had it to ours. Like, okay, Mon's like, this is our only go, and they're way the hell up there. Yeah. They are up and over those mountains. And it's kind of like, do you really think he can make that? Yeah. And it's like, well, that's the only thing we can do. I mean, we just have to try. And otherwise,
he can. Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, they'll start going back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And truth be told, you never said, I can't do it. You were always like, yeah, let's try it. And we're all like, oh God, I don't think you can actually do it.
I never thought in my mind, I thought, because I remember eating my first granola bar and feeling like that was a win.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, well, if that's a win.
Yep.
Climbing another 2,500 feet is impossible. But then it just kept, like you said, it's just little wins. Like, I got a little food in me.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little more sleep because I couldn't sleep. I was so sick. I never slept. So now I have no sleep. I have, I wrote in my journal. I read it a lot. It's just kind of listing the misery points.
Yeah.
But then we decided, hey, we kind of have to. He said, this is the last of sheep that we know that are in this valley. They're, like I said, we got to get up. I remember them saying, got to get up at 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to hike up over this pass.
Yeah, it was kind of like showing us what we needed to do. They pointed, and it's kind of like one of those things as a guide. You're like not sure if the person's going to be able to do it. You're like, yeah, that's where we got to go.
Yeah,
like
we'll be fine.
Almost like intimidate you or see how you're going to, but.
I don't remember any specifics around that, any conversations.
No.
I don't remember any.
You were out of it still.
Yeah. I don't remember any, I just remember getting back to the tent after I missed this sheep and burned my face boiling water.
Mm-hmm.
And sitting there. And Ben Ayers coming over. Ben Ayers is this gentle, beautiful person, coming over and just saying, what's upset? You're upset. I'm like,
can you tell me
Ben,
about it?
I'm a little bit upset. I wish this was going another way, buddy. I wish I was healthy and fit, and I think I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm healthy and fit, I think I can get it done. I often even now think back of what it would have been like if we were, I was healthy for all of us.
Sure.
It would have been a whole different experience. I'm glad it went the way it did, but
sure. Well, yeah,
but it would have been a whole different experience for you and for everybody else on the trip had I been.
Yeah. But I thought, yes, the next day it was a beautiful day.
Yeah, it was a nice day.
We go up the valley, that huge pass we had to go over, and I'm thinking with every step, I'm like, oh boy, one foot in front of the other. I have been around so many guys that once they are faced with adversity, how they can break down. And you never did that day. You just kept putting one foot in front of the other, and you'd have to sit down. You were weak. We'd get you water, but you just sit down, and you get up. Yep, I'm good. And you just one foot in front of the other.
I had a few breakdowns that day, though. I remember taking my trekking poles, and I remember Raju saying in what little English he could say. I remember remember we go up this snowy pass, and like it's literally, I don't know how many feet of snow it was.
It's a few feet.
4 feet of
Yeah,
snow that
a
was
lot of
iced
snow.
over. So you
Yeah.
would be stepping on the ice and hoping that you didn't fall through, and you started to fall through. You know, anybody that's hiked in that kind of country knows what
Yeah,
that's
post
like.
holing.
You're post holing, and every step's like going another mile.
Mhm.
You know, when you're in that situation, and we're at what 16,000 feet at this point,
Yeah.
something like that, 16.5.
Yeah.
And we're post holing for what seemed to be hours. I mean, it was hours to get
Mhm.
up, and we summited this. You know, it was a pretty gradual valley, but for that place,
It was very long.
just arduous, gradual. It wasn't a climb. Like, we didn't have to climb hands and knees, but it was a long slog and post on through this ice. It's cold. And we get to the summit of that ascent, and we look out across this valley, and I remember thinking I made it up here because they're like, the sheep are up there. And I'm thinking, let me get my gun out, get it loaded, because, you know,
Yeah.
the sheep are going to be around here. And then finally they spot them, and we look across. I'm like, this fuckers are 1.5 miles.
Yeah, they made it sound like they were right there because he went around the bowl and they waved us over. Sheep, 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 and it's like, okay, right,
Look
right
at the
here, they're right
binos.
here.
I'm like, those sheep?
Yeah, I ranged. I'm like, wait, what? Down there? And I ranged, and it was like 1,800 yards away. And I looked, I'm like, that's too far.
Yeah.
I said
We
that to
all
him.
were
I
like,
said, no,
we're
he
not gonna
can't
be able to-
shoot that far.
He's not gonna make it. And that was the one time where I thought this is over, because it was hot as fuck then. Remember?
Yeah,
And,
you
like,
just
it
the
was
sun's-
burning our skin, like, you know, the roof of your mouth is burning. My lips were chapped.
The
and
glare
falling
off the snow.
The glare off the snow
Yeah.
is
And it was
terrible.
actually fairly warm that day up
Yeah.
there, like you say. It got warm, and for being in that type of climate, it feels, when it does break and you get that sun and no wind there, it feels hot.
Oh yeah, because there's not as much atmosphere. The air is thinner,
Mhm.
so that sun is that much more intense.
Mhm.
And so we're sitting on that ridge glassing those sheep, and that sun is hitting me, and I'm just like, I remember thinking, like, this is some real adventurous stupidity. Like, I'm gonna go after these sheep, but I'm not sure how I'm gonna make it up out of here, because
Mhm.
I'm thinking,
Well, we had to drop down almost 2,000 feet.
yeah,
I
so you
think.
got to drop down 1,500 to 2,000 feet after climbing 3,000.
Mhm.
And then go back up with a sheep if
Now
you
you got to
kill
go back
one.
the way you. Yeah.
And I'm thinking we're gonna have to camp down here, but we don't have any tents or anything with us, because it's like, maybe, you know, we left camp at 6, and maybe 6 hours later we summit, like
Mhm.
that.
The
you know, 6
thing
or
I
7 hours.
appreciated most about Mon, and I mean this from like a guide standpoint, there was no question in Mon's mind. Once he saw those, like he kept pushing ahead to scout and look. Once he saw those sheep, there was no question at that point whether he was going to get you there or not. He knew it.
Yeah.
And he's like, we go down here, and we, like he motioned, we go here, 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 and we'll go there. And like he was all about it. I was back there, probably every now and then those guys are thinking, what? That is far. Like, I don't know if I would have been, if I was guiding
I think
at that
we were all
moment in
kicked in the
time,
ass.
I was thinking that is a large drop off and quite a bit of chunk of ways over there. And so for him to be that ballsy to make the call to do it, you obviously have to be there to see it, but he just, and you guys just grabbed. There was not much talk about it. He said, you guys stay here. I'll take Ben and Raju.
Yeah.
And
we, next thing you know, Raju and I and Mon are sliding on our asses down an icy cliff. I mean, sliding to the point where, and they were, again, treating me like a grandma, like trying to hold my legs so I wouldn't flip. But we slid 1,000 feet down a cliff on our butts. And now you're wet. And it's like, and so then after that, we got down to the bottom. It was a pretty easy traverse up to the point but then we had to go up a big ridge to get to where we could lay down and glass the sheep. And once we got there, that's when I knew. Once we got 350 yards away, that's when I knew. I was like, oh, wow.
I'm here.
I came all the way here, and I'm going to kill this animal. And I knew it at that point. I knew. I was like, it was almost like I started looking back up at you guys who had stayed up on the hill, like, how are we going to get this thing out of here before I even shot it? And then I laid, Mon and I discussed which sheep was which, and I laid there, and we were waiting for the sheep. He's laying down to turn, and I just remember, like, thinking, being the most calm I'd been in quite some time, not nervous, no pressure to kill it. I knew. I was like, I didn't come all this way. and there's no way this thing's not going to die right here.
Yeah.
It's not happening. And it was, he turned in his bed a little bit, stood up, and then laid back down to the point where I could get a bullet in him. And one shot, he stood up, ran in a circle, and fell over.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't cheer. I just put my face down in my pack and kind of like, cool.
Soaked it up
a little bit. And then even getting over to the sheep, I was like, fuck, now we got to go down this little icy patch, like this little icy ravine, and up over to the bench where they were at. And there's another 300-400 feet. We got to, and then we got to go. But I remember the mountain to the, it would have been to the south of us, whatever. Yeah, it would have been the south because the sun was on it. It was the most beautiful range I'd ever seen. And I sat there with the game scout, and he tried to explain to me that he had a snow leopard trap line on that.
Oh, right. Yep.
I remember that. Yeah. And I remember thinking, oh my God, that was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how I got there. And so those moments are special, man. You know,
yep. I remember Renan and us sitting up there just being blown away that, like, wow, this actually went down. This actually happened. Like, I cannot believe it. Ben shot a sheep. And I mean, and I can honestly say that us three had, I don't think there was any question in our mind the day or two before that you weren't going. You were going home, probably on a helicopter, and this was not going to happen for you getting your sheep. Yeah. And so for you to pull through on that, it was amazing because I love those success stories with my hunters, showing them what they can do. Yeah. And so for you to pull through and you to do that is just amazing for us to see. Yeah. And and no one, sure, people, unfortunately it wasn't shown on the video you guys did, which I wish that was shown, because the adversity in that was amazing, that you conquered that, and so that was amazing in itself. And it was like on our way out, I just remember you were like a new man, you were just, I mean, we were just hiking up, and I just feel like, whoa, Ben is. Like,
I remember,
wow.
I remember when I finally was feeling good, right? Because you got sick, and it was a day, and then you like have a day to kind of day and a half. Well, my day and a half was, plus altitude sickness. My day and a half was kind of in the shit when I had mine, and I finally felt good. I don't think it was because I killed a sheep. I just think it's because I finally felt good.
I think the exerted energy helped push things through your body quicker, maybe, and getting more hydrated, getting some food in you, all the above.
Well, you remember, so we kill the sheep, we do our pictures and all our stuff, and then we start hiking back to the summit where we saw the sheep from. And I remember it was you and Ben and Renan would be good ways ahead of me the whole time. Like, you guys would hike ahead of me and then stop, and then I would eventually get there. You go hike ahead of me and stop, and I'd eventually get there. The moment when I felt the best was when we got to that summit and we were taking pictures and jacking around, filming. I finally felt good. Like, I finally felt clear and good and healthy and happy. And not even killing the sheep, not even getting but getting up that, because now I knew we were going down into camp. Yeah. And now we're going down into camp, and I don't have to go up anymore for a while. Yeah. And then when we're going down through that valley where we had to post all up, we slid down on our butts. And I remember sliding down with Ben Ayers, like fucking cheering as we went. Like, I think you went forward a little bit of us, but and Raju was sliding, and we were all sliding on the ice and cheering like a fucking roller coaster. Yeah. And I was like, dude, those experiences it
was a spectacular day, because I think everyone in camp, everyone was so excited for you that, whoa, he did it. Like, he actually did it. And I guarantee you pushing through and doing that showed those guys that anything is possible out there, because there are people that show up to those camps that cannot do it. They can't make it up the mountain. Yeah. And so to have those people in camp that they help get through those times, that helps the next person too.
Yeah,
it helps them, and it helps to tell these experiences and for them to put in their their memory bank. But
that they the hunt we went on before we had the Kodiak hunt. I came out of that thinking like, man, I did pretty good. Like, I didn't really struggle. I put 100 pounds in my pack and went 4 miles, and we did it. Like, I didn't get sick or fall in a river. Or,
Yeah.
I didn't grow up doing stuff that you've been doing for many more years than me. So for me, these things are monumental. They just are. And I'm not some fucking Adonis. I'm, average height, average build. Don't really like these things for me are just more monumental. I'm not afraid to say it. I don't give a shit. I have no ego about it. Like these things for me are just a little bit. The mountain's a little bit taller than for other people, and like you said, there's other people that can't do the things that I can do, the same. But I've always been quick to realize that these things are beyond the scope of what I ever thought I could do.
Sure.
And so leaving that Kodiak hunt, I'm like, man, legit.
You had a bar,
like legit, and I hopped over it, and I felt good to have done it. And then Nepal was like, I wasn't really sure what the bar was, but I knew this is the hardest.
It was kind of a really screwed up moving bar.
Yeah, and I shit all over it, and then puked all over it. And it's like, but that hunt is described as like the hardest mountain hunt in the world, and it is hard. And I don't have a lot. I'm, the one really. You've been to Azerbaijan and done those other things.
Yeah, and I think you're right. If you were healthy, the obstacles in Nepal is mainly the altitude.
Yeah,
that's what the obstacle is. It's not. I mean,
it's a gradual climb. Like there
are some steep places, no doubt about it, but it's mainly the altitude. But you can be on Kodiak and turn it into the roughest, nastiest physical hunt, like chasing goats or deer or something up a brushy hillside in August or September, and having to beat your way through all that stuff. But I mean, I've been in so many places around the world where I'm like, wow, I've set a new bar of shit here. This is unbelievable.
Well, yeah. So you go through like days and days of no footing, no trails. We walked on most of our time hiking through Nepal was on old. Well, not old. They're fairly new hillside goat and sheep trails. And so, we were hiking in high altitude. It was hard, and we hiked a long time for a few days. But it wasn't like what you do in Kodiak, where you've got to beat brush and slog through, bogs and stuff you have no footing. So it was hard in just a different way.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it definitely set a new physical bar for me on pushing, because when I went up after my ram with Mon, I kind of made the mistake of, I'm going to stay with Mon and I am going to hike just as hard as these guys, not to, but just to I just felt like that's what I need to do.
Well, you're in the hunt that way.
And I'm in the hunt and I'm wired that way. And so that day pushed me extremely hard. I've never expanded my lung capacity to that size of just breathing so hard. And so that day I just remember wow, at the end of that day, I was so taxed and spent. But it was a different level, because yes, I've gone through brushier, nastier type of things like on Kodiak or the Chugach with sheep or whatever. But then I was like, I have never felt like that before.
Yeah.
And what I came away with on that hunt, because I've always thought about, I'd like to go summit some of these big mountains sometime, but I kind of came away with the feeling, and waking up in the middle of the night, not being able to breathe very well in camp.
Oh yeah.
That night, I think you and I both were really uneasy that night. And I remember getting out of my tent. I had to, because I felt like I wasn't getting any air in my tent. But that uneasy feeling, it made me think to myself, I'm not so sure that I personally really have a big desire to go climb one of these really big mountains. Like I just, and I remember asking Renan, I said, does this ever get any better? Like, you guys are so used to this, huh?
Man.
And then he's like, not, I mean, it's really not that comfortable. And the guys that do it are just wired differently. And it's kind of like, I guess, like us. I mean, they push through it, and they're mentally strong. And so for us to do these types of hunts, no matter where it is, it sounds macho a little bit, but it's one of those things, though. I think it makes you appreciate things in life. Getting back to what we talked about earlier on, makes you appreciate things in life. Coming home to a nice warm home, being there with your family, nice cooked meals, good gear, nice clothes,
Listen,
everything.
Be in a place like you and I were in that case. We were voluntarily there. No, and this is why I think military members even think about us like, okay, like
right.
I went on a hunt, but you paid for this. I think you put yourself in the thing where the environment is out to get you to a point where, and you can't turn that off.
Mm-hmm.
It's relentless.
Yeah.
Like you can't turn it off. And in the normal world, you can turn it off when you want.
Sure.
You can turn, like, if you're like, man, I'm really not feeling it today. I just like to, after work, I'm going to go home and watch some TV and drink
I'll just stay at home.
Turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
You can turn it off. You got sick days. Turn it off. Out there, I had sick days, but I couldn't turn it off because I either like pull the cord and get the helicopter to come or walk the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you can't turn that off. You can't take an easy day out there. Like, you just have to push through it because there is no other way to be. And that's how those guys are. And then the more they push, the more they can push. And the next thing they know, they're standing atop Everest. You know, I think that's how they described it to me. It's like you keep pushing, and the next thing you know, you're at the highest thing. And you just don't think about it while you're pushing, because otherwise you'd be like, fuck, this is scary.
Never mind that no air in your lungs.
Just never mind the oxygen in my brain. Fucking babies. Anyway, this is, where are we at? 2 hours and 17 minutes, Cole Kramer.
My goodness. We sure rambled on.
We really did. Hope it was interesting for the folks out in the podcast land. I think it probably was.
Well, thank you for having me on, Ben. I really appreciate it. You and I have many more adventures to come. And,
I think
at some point in time, we're going to do an enjoyable trip.
No.
I'm trying to think of one for you.
We've done like several non-hunting trips that were relatively enjoyable.
You know, I think what we're going to do next time is we're going to blindfold you, and then we go, and you'll just be like, where are we going, Cole?
Oh,
and I'm like, surprise, Pakistan!
Surprise! You are at the bottom of the ocean in a submarine, and you have diarrhea. How did you make me? Yep.
I don't know why Hannah doesn't like me.
Yeah, well, I will say this. Hannah told me today that she scheduled the photography session that you bought us. So Cole is a smart man. He knows how to play things. He, as a thank you for Hannah, my wife, allowing me to come on these great adventures, he bought us a photography package too, because you had noticed when we're on our trips, I do like to look at photos of my family, especially on Nepal, when I was like, hope I get to see these folks again. Yeah. Be nice.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy seeing your little man and telling your stories and so
hopefully, we're going to get some photos thanks to your gift of our family so that I can look at next time.
Thank you for everything you've always done for me.
Well, next time I'm shitting my pants with you, then I can look at those photos like.
Well, we'll have new sponsors. Depends.
Well, depends.
Adult diapers.
Oh God. No, man. I always say, I'm 32 and you're what, 55.
I look like it. God. Thank God my girlfriend thinks I look good with gray hair. Otherwise,
but we got a long ways to go in this industry, this hunting world. So I'm sure there'll be numerous more things that we do that will require a 2-hour podcast to unpack them.
many more adventures to come.
So thank you, buddy.
All right. Thank you, sir.
That's it. That is all. Thank you, Mr. Cole Kramer, so much for being the guy that you are, being a part of my life. I'm truly appreciative. And I am also appreciative to everyone listening through these first 18 episodes and coming up to me at events. This week at Total Archery Challenge, I probably talked to 50 or 60 people that have listened to the podcast, and each one of you that have come up and chatted with me have been respectful. I just wanted to shake hands and talk about this thing we're doing called the Hunting Collective, and that keeps me going. That makes me excited about the future, and it's a bright future for us here. I'll have some news regarding that future coming up real soon. I won't tease you with much more than that. And in the meantime, you can go to thehuntingcollective.com, check out articles, videos, other podcasts. Our last couple were great. We had Adam Janke on. We had Casey Butler from Hushin. We had Ryan Callahan of First Light. Fred Eichler. John Gale of BHA. Just a bunch of great conversations with a bunch of great people. Please write in and let us know how you like it. Let us know who else we can have on and how we can do it better. As always, many, many, many thank yous. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins. Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like them. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.